What time is it? Where you are right now. Perhaps the night has settled around you, soft and heavy. Or perhaps the dawn is just a faint suggestion beyond your window. Wherever you are, I invite you to look up, at least in your imagination. Picture the sky above you, infinite and patient, scattered with stars that have burned for billions of years. Now imagine something new, something uninvited sliding into this ancient stage. It does not belong to our solar system. It has travelled a distance so great that even our strongest telescopes can barely trace its path back into the darkness. It is the third interstellar visitor ever detected by human eyes, and its name is 3I Atlas. When you close your eyes and drift into thought, imagine a grain of sand falling onto a vast desert floor. That grain is like Earth, small and fragile, resting in the immensity of the cosmos. Across that desert, unseen, something moves. An object wandering between stars, silent and without origin, entering the narrow band of light that we call our home. It is not the first. You may remember ʻOumuamua, the strange shard that puzzled astronomers in 2017, or Borisov, the icy comet that followed. But this is the third. And as with many third arrivals in old stories, its presence feels heavier, more deliberate, as though the universe is speaking in a pattern we are only beginning to hear. You are safe where you are now. The walls around you are steady, the air is calm, and the ground beneath your bed is solid. But out there, in the silent gulf, an object is moving closer to Mars, and the more we look at it, the stranger it becomes. As you breathe slowly, letting your body sink into rest, know that you are listening to a mystery that bridges the known and the unknown, the scientific and the impossible. This is not simply a rock. It is not simply a comet. It is 3/4 Atlas, and tonight its story begins. It began, as so many cosmic stories do, in silence. The night over Mauna Loa in Hawaii stretched wide and black, brushed with the faint shimmer of the Milky Way. The Pan-STARRS Observatory was awake, its twin telescopes methodically sweeping the sky, their digital eyes tuned not to beauty but to motion, to those subtle betrayals in the star's stillness that might reveal something wandering. Astronomers often say that the sky is not truly still, only too vast for the mind to grasp its restlessness. Stars move, galaxies spin, and even our own sun drags us forward through the galaxy at a breathtaking pace. Yet on the timescale of a single human life, this great machinery is hidden. What Pan-STARRS seeks are the faster drifters, near-Earth asteroids, comets, transient bodies slipping through our neighbourhood like unexpected guests. Most of the time, the survey records ordinary rocks, dusty relics of our solar system, but on that night in late 2025, the data hinted at something stranger. The object did not belong. At first, it was only a faint point of light, little more than a statistical whisper against the digital noise. Yet its apparent speed, when measured against background stars, carried an unmistakable signature. It was moving too fast, faster than the orbital leash of our sun would allow. The software flagged it, and a human, tired but alert, confirmed the anomaly. Its path, when plotted, did not curve inward like a local comet disturbed from the Oort cloud. No, it was falling into our system along a hyperbolic trajectory, the same kind that had marked ʻOumuamua and Borisov before it. The message was clear. We were looking at something interstellar again. The official confirmation came within days. Observatories across the world pivoted their instruments toward the faint intruder. From the Canary Islands to Chile, or from the amateur backyard telescopes of dedicated sky watchers to the immense eyes of the European Southern Observatory, they all joined in a quiet chorus of attention. The International Astronomical Union designated it 3 Atlas, the third recognized interstellar object, discovered by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, a name that in itself carried a faint irony. A system built to warn us of danger had stumbled upon something far more mysterious. Consider for a moment what it means to find such a thing. Our solar system has been circling the galaxy for billions of years, passing countless stars and clouds of dust. Yet only 3 times in recorded history have we caught a glimpse of visitors that came from outside. The odds suggest that these objects are everywhere, wandering like vagrants expelled from their native suns, but their faintness and speed make them nearly invisible. To spot one is like seeing a single drifting leaf in a storm that covers the entire planet. And yet, Against that improbability, here it was. The Discovery team described their reaction in words that oscillated between scientific understatement and quiet awe. It is always awe in the end. To watch your computer plot a line that curves not around the sun, but straight through its gravity well and out again, is to realize you are touching the edge of another story. A story that began far away, perhaps around another star, perhaps before our own world even existed. Data flowed quickly. 3I Atlas was brighter than ʻOumuamua at discovery, its coma faint but discernible, suggesting outgassing like a comet. Yet its structure resisted easy classification. The estimates placed its size anywhere from several hundred meters to perhaps a kilometer across, large enough to swallow a city whole, small enough to vanish into interstellar space unnoticed if not for our watching eyes. Its speed was staggering, over 30 kilometers per second relative to the sun, faster than 170 bullets fired in perfect succession, faster than any spacecraft humanity has ever built. It was hurtling inward, bound not for Earth, but for a close pass by Mars. Mars, the red world, has long held our imagination. But now, for the first time, it was about to host a guest that had travelled beyond imagination's reach. When the orbital projections were refined, astronomers realised 3I Atlas would pass within a few million kilometres of the planet, close enough that robotic spacecraft in orbit there might glimpse it, perhaps even touch its dust with their instruments. For the first time in history, we had the chance not just to observe an interstellar object through distant telescopes, but to encounter it within the reach of our machines. News of the discovery spread, though quietly at first. The world is filled with noise, politics, economics, daily survival, and the arrival of a faint speck of light in the sky rarely captures the collective imagination. Yet, among astronomers, astrophysicists and dreamers, the whispers grew. Another visitor, another mystery, and this one brighter, nearer and stranger still. Imagine yourself as one of those scientists seated at a computer screen late at night, watching the raw data flicker into meaning. The stars drift across the field of view, steady, eternal, and then a point moves. At first you doubt it. Perhaps it's a satellite, perhaps a cosmic ray hitting the detector. But then you compare frames, calculate its trajectory, and feel the weight of realization pressing in. This is not ours. This thing comes from the darkness beyond. What does such a realization do to the human mind? For some, it brings exhilaration, the thrill of discovery, the sense of being present at a moment history will remember. For others, it brings unease, a reminder of our fragility, of how porous the borders of our solar system truly are. Nothing prevents these wanderers from crossing our path. Nothing prevents one from colliding with us, except the blind luck of trajectories drawn billions of years ago. In the days following the announcement, the astronomy community lit up with activity. Preprints appeared on ARCs. Models of its orbit were refined again and again. The James Webb Space Telescope was assigned a brief window of observation, its infrared eye capable of peering into the object's surface and composition. NASA, ESA, and smaller agencies debated whether a rapid response mission was even conceivable. Could we launch something fast enough to intercept it before it vanished back into the abyss? The answer, as always, leaned toward no. Our technology was not yet ready. Still, the idea shimmered in the background like a candle in fog. What if we could meet it up close? What secrets would it reveal? For now, all we had were photons. Faint, stretched, tired photons that had bounced off its surface and crossed millions of kilometers of space to reach our mirrors. From those, we teased out details. The spectrum suggested volatile materials, ices sublimating into gas. But there were irregularities too. Its brightness did not fade smoothly as it rotated. Instead, it flickered, as though its surface were uneven, angular, perhaps fractured into planes that caught the light in sudden bursts. Some astronomers whispered the word tumbling, recalling the odd cigar-shaped spin of ʻOumuamua. Others thought of geometry, of structure, of something built. It is easy to drift into such thoughts late at night, when the numbers blur into poetry and the imagination takes the wheel. Yet the scientists are trained to be cautious. They speak in probabilities, in margins of error, in the language of restraint. But the silence of the universe is louder than any caution, and into that silence 3 Atlas kept moving. Picture it now if you can. A lonely fragment of something, comet, rock, machine, sliding into the heart of our system, unlit except for the sun's glow, its velocity unbending, its destination uncertain. Mars waits ahead, a rust-red sentinel turning slowly in the dark. Between the two, a gulf of emptiness. Around them, the vast theatre of planets and moons, their orbits spinning silently, as though nothing unusual is happening. And yet we know, something is happening. The Third Interstellar Visitor has arrived, and with it comes a question that will not leave us. Why? That question, soft and insistent, followed the astronomers as they left their observatories and tried to sleep. It seeped into the background hum of scientific discussion, into the small notes scribbled in margins, into the restless dreams of those who spend their lives staring upward. Why here? Why now? And why does it not behave the way we expect? Because even in these early days, the first anomalies were beginning to surface. When an interstellar visitor reveals itself, the first thing astronomers reach for is measurement. They measure its brightness, its arc across the sky, the subtle variations in its light that tell of rotation, shape, and surface. They measure not because numbers themselves are reassuring, but because numbers are all we have. Every photon that reflects from a distant rock carries a message. Our task is to read it before the object vanishes back into the dark. So it was with 3i Atlas. Within hours of confirmation, data poured in from across the globe. Observers in the southern hemisphere tracked it as it rose above their horizons, while telescopes in the north caught it dipping into their fields of view. Together, these points became a map, and the map became a revelation. The first parameter, speed. 3i Atlas was racing toward us at over 30 kilometers per second relative to the Sun. That is more than 100,000 kilometers every hour. Imagine a bullet fired from a rifle. Now imagine 170 bullets fired at once, each faster than sound, each racing together. 3. Atlas was faster still, faster than any human spacecraft, faster than the escape velocity of any world. It was speed incarnate, a messenger of distances we cannot imagine, a body moving with the inertia of galactic tides. Its trajectory was hyperbolic, not an ellipse, not the neat curve of a planet or asteroid bound by the sun's pull. Instead, its path sliced through space like a blade, bent only slightly as it skimmed near the center of our system. This told us what we already suspected. It was not born here. Its home lay in the darkness between the stars, perhaps ejected from the gravity well of another sun millions or billions of years ago. It was a traveller, and we were a stop along its way. Next came the question of size. The object's brightness, when compared with its distance and albedo, its ability to reflect sunlight, suggested a body several hundred meters across, perhaps as wide as a kilometer. Picture a city block tumbling through the void, or an island drifting on an invisible sea. The estimates varied because 3i Atlas did not shine evenly. Instead, it flickered, as though its surface was jagged, its rotation irregular, its geometry complex. This flickering reminded astronomers of ʻOumuamua's strange light curve, which suggested a long cigar-shaped body, or perhaps a flattened shard. 3i Atlas, too, seemed unwilling to conform to the simplicity of a sphere. Composition came next, and with it the first shiver of strangeness. Early spectra hinted at volatiles, frozen gases sublimating into space as the object warmed under sunlight. This gave it a faint coma, the hazy envelope of vapour that marks a comet. And yet the coma was weak, too weak for the level of heating expected. In fact, some nights it seemed absent entirely, as though the object decided whether to behave like a comet on a whim. The ratio of gases did not match familiar comets either. There were traces of carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, but in unusual proportions, as though the recipe that built 3i Atlas came from a kitchen far from our solar system. Imagine tasting water on a distant world and finding it subtly wrong, the flavour alien in a way you cannot quite describe. That was the feeling the data gave, familiar but unsettlingly skewed. The James Webb Space Telescope added its vision to the puzzle. In the infrared, 3i Atlas revealed thermal properties inconsistent with a simple icy body. Its surface heated unevenly, as though layered with materials of sharply different reflectivity and conductivity. Some patches seemed dark, absorbing sunlight like charcoal. Others gleamed bright, bouncing it away like polished metal. The pattern was not random, or at least it did not seem random, and soon the whispers began again. Could it be fractured? Could it be artificial? No one dared to say it aloud in formal papers. But in late-night conversations, in quiet emails between colleagues, the comparisons were drawn. A tumbling light sail, a broken probe, a relic drifting through interstellar space, carrying scars of a purpose we could not yet name. And then there was Mars. The orbital models refined themselves day by day, shrinking their margins of error, converging on a certainty. 3i Atlas would not approach Earth closely. Instead, it would pass within a handful of million kilometers of Mars, a cosmic near miss. For human spacecraft already circling the red world, the opportunity was unprecedented. If cameras were aimed at the right time, if instruments were tuned to the right frequency, we might catch it up close, even if only as a pixel or a faint smear. In that pixel perhaps would be a clue, an edge, a gleam, a signal. The thought lingered like a ghost. What if we saw something we were not ready to see? Even so, the human mind is drawn irresistibly to analogy. To understand, we compare. Astronomers recalled ʻOumuamua, which had left behind more questions than answers. Was it a rock, an iceberg of hydrogen ice, a fractal dust aggregate, or was it something else, something unspoken? They recalled Borisov, which had behaved more like a normal comet, though even that word means little when describing something expelled from another system. Now 3 Atlas had arrived, and it seemed to combine traits of both predecessors, cometary in some ways, irregular in others, and possessing its own suite of inexplicable behaviours. The comparisons expanded outward. In lectures and interviews, scientists invoked metaphors to bring the incomprehensible closer. If Earth were a grain of sand, they said, then the solar system itself would be a beach. And 3i Atlas? It would be a single mote of dust blowing in from the desert beyond the dunes. A desert where stars are separated by light years, and each mote might carry the chemistry of a different sun, the echo of a different planet. To think of it this way is to feel small, but also strangely privileged. For all the billions of people who have lived and died under these skies, only now, in this fleeting window of history, do we have the technology to glimpse such travellers. Our ancestors stared upward and saw only stars. We for the first time see what passes between them, and yet, small anomalies gnawed at the picture. Astronomers noted that its acceleration did not perfectly match gravitational expectations. The discrepancy was slight, far smaller than the odd push ʻOumuamua had displayed, but real enough to notice. Radiation pressure from sunlight might explain it, if the object were unusually light for its size, if it were a hollow shell, or a thin structure, or something built to harness starlight. But if it were solid, dense and rocky, then the numbers resisted easy reconciliation. Imagine for a moment lying beneath the night sky and feeling that one of the stars above is watching you back. The numbers gave that same sensation, the sense of something not entirely passive, not entirely inert. Still, science proceeds carefully. The official statement stressed natural explanations, volatile outgassing, surface irregularities, observational error, and indeed, those may yet prove sufficient. But the tone of the debates shifted. With each new observation, 3i Atlas seemed to stand with one foot in the realm of comets, and another in the realm of the inexplicable. It is tempting to leap to conclusions, to imagine sails catching photons, or probes launched by civilizations older than ours, drifting like bottled messages through the sea of space. It is tempting to hear intention in the silence, but for now, we are left with data, and data does not whisper intentions. It only asks us to interpret. So here we are, with a city-sized fragment tumbling toward Mars, moving faster than any craft we can hope to chase, reflecting light in ways that baffle our instruments, breathing out gases that do not quite belong, and carrying with it the same question that haunted its predecessors. What is it? The Earth turns on, oblivious. Days pass, nights arrive, and the object grows brighter in the sky. Children are born, lives unfold, and somewhere above us a stone from another star approaches its rendezvous. Humanity continues as though nothing has changed, and yet everything has. For in the act of noticing, in the act of asking, we have already crossed a boundary. The numbers are clear, the object is fast, it is strange, and it is here. But the first anomaly, the one that science cannot yet smooth over, waits just beyond these measurements. For when astronomers looked closer, when they compared notes from different observatories, they realized something unsettling. 3 Atlas was not alone. When we speak of 3 Atlas as the third interstellar visitor, the words themselves carry a subtle weight. Third, visitor. There is a rhythm in it, a suggestion of pattern. Once might be chance. Twice could still be coincidence. But 3 begins to whisper of inevitability, of a hidden current beneath the surface of randomness. To understand the meaning of this third arrival, we must look back at the first 2, and at the silence that stretches around them. In 2017, the first visitor slipped through unnoticed until it was already leaving. ʻOumuamua, its name a gift from the Hawaiian language meaning a messenger from afar arriving first. The designation was apt. It came with no warning, no chance to intercept. Discovered by pan-stars just as 3 Atlas would be years later, ʻOumuamua tumbled into our awareness like a shard of alien glass. It was small, perhaps only a few hundred meters in length, and its shape defied expectation. The light curve suggested something long and thin like a cigar, or perhaps flat like a pancake. No comet had ever behaved quite like it. Stranger still, its trajectory showed a slight but measurable acceleration that gravity alone could not explain. It seemed to drift under the faint pressure of sunlight as though it were a thin sail catching photons. Some astronomers proposed natural mechanisms, outgassing of hydrogen, exotic ices sublimating invisibly. But the truth was simpler and more unsettling. We did not know. ʻOumuamua left us with more questions than answers, and as it vanished into the night, the debate only grew louder. 2 years later came the second. Borisov, named for the amateur astronomer who discovered it. This time, the object behaved more like the comets we know. It shed gas and dust. It sprouted a luminous tail. It looked every bit the part of an icy wanderer. And yet it too came from elsewhere. A true interstellar comet, carrying chemistry from another star system. Its gases held subtle differences in ratios, fingerprints of alien conditions, proof that planetary nurseries across the galaxy brew their comets from recipes both familiar and strange. Borisov reassured us in some ways, showing that interstellar objects could look like what we expect. But it also unsettled us, reminding us that the galaxy is not static, that fragments of other suns do not merely exist in theory, but pass through our skies. And now, 3 Atlas, the third messenger. Larger than ʻOumuamua, stranger than Borisov, and heading not away, but toward an encounter with Mars that promises something the others never offered: proximity. Already, the comparisons are impossible to ignore. Where ʻOumuamua defied classification, and Borisov fit neatly into it, 3 Atlas seems to straddle both. It carries a faint coma like a comet, but its outgassing is erratic. It flickers like a tumbling shard, echoing the mystery of ʻOumuamua's shape. Its acceleration is subtle but anomalous, and its composition hints at an origin story not easily reconciled with any known stellar nursery. What is the pattern here? Is it random chance that 3 such bodies have passed through within the span of a single decade, after billions of years of silence? Or is it our technology, finally sharp enough to notice them? Perhaps the galaxy has always been thick with such travellers, and we simply lacked the eyes to see. Pan-STARRS, the European Space Agency's Gaia mission, the wide-field surveys of the Vera Rubin Observatory soon to come. These are the lenses that peel back the curtain. Perhaps we are only now learning to listen, and what we hear first are the loudest notes. Yet the timing gnaws at the imagination. For millennia our skies held only comets and asteroids of local origin. Then suddenly, like a drumbeat, 3 interstellar messengers in a row, one enigmatic, one familiar, one hybrid, more complex still. It is as though the universe were telling a story in 3 acts, each visitor a chapter, each more compelling than the last. ʻOumuamua was the prologue, the shock of recognition, the gasp that says, yes, such things exist. Borisov was the middle note, a reassurance that not all strangeness is alien, that some travellers look like kin, and 3 Atlas. 3 Atlas feels like escalation, a blending of categories, a question mark with weight behind it. It does not simply pass through. It approaches Mars, a world we already dream of colonizing. It offers the chance of direct study, and with that chance comes risk. The risk of answers. For answers can be comforting, but they can also be terrifying. Let us pause here and imagine the scale of what we're discussing. The distances involved defy human intuition. Light, the fastest thing we know, takes over 4 years to travel from the nearest star to us. If Earth were a grain of sand, that star would be another grain placed 7 kilometers away. Between those grains lies empty desert, vast beyond imagining. ʻOumuamua, Borisov, and three-way Atlas are fragments that have crossed that desert. They may have been ejected from their home systems by the birth pangs of planets, flung outward by gravity into the void. Or they may be remnants of catastrophes, broken worlds hurled into exile. Each carries with it a history we cannot see, written in the pattern of its atoms, the shape of its spin, the chemistry of its breath. To glimpse one is to hold in your hand a letter written in another language, addressed to no one, carried by winds that span the galaxy. You do not know who wrote it. You do not know why. You only know that it has found you, by chance or by fate, and you must read what little you can before the wind takes it away again. ʻOumuamua's letter was cryptic, its words fragmented. Borisov's was clearer, a poem of ice and dust familiar to us. Three-Eye Atlas arrives like a page torn in half, with lines of both poetry and code scribbled across it, neither wholly one nor the other. To interpret it is to risk misreading, to risk projecting our fears and hopes into the silence. Yet to ignore it is impossible. Why does this third visitor feel different? Perhaps because by the time of its arrival humanity itself is different. We are no longer passive watchers. We have spacecraft circling Mars, rovers crawling across its dust, telescopes stationed beyond Earth's atmosphere. Our ears are sharper, our eyes clearer, our ambition greater. When ʻOumuamua came, we could only watch it flee. When Borisov passed, we could only record its glow. But with Third Atlas, there is the faint possibility of meeting it, of brushing against its dust, of learning more than whispers. And with possibility comes tension, the tension of standing at the edge of revelation. In the halls of astronomy, papers circulate, models churn, debates flicker. Some argue it is cometary, others asteroidal. Some point to its anomalous acceleration and see nothing unusual. Others see a crack in the wall of natural explanation. And beneath the arguments lies the deeper current, the one not spoken aloud in professional tones, the unease, because each visitor has come bearing anomalies, and each anomaly has resisted closure. Because the pattern is beginning to look less like coincidence and more like signal. Signal, of course, does not necessarily mean communication. A storm has a signal, a landslide has a signal. Natural events speak in their own way, but humans are pattern-seeking creatures, and when faced with silence, we fill it with meaning. If ʻOumuamua was the knock at the door, if Borisov was the polite introduction, then Three Atlas begins to feel like something more. And always there is the thought we try to push aside. If visitors can arrive, so can other things. If debris can find us, so can intention. The galaxy is vast, but not infinite. Stars drift, systems pass close, materials cross the gulfs. We are not as isolated as we once believed. The walls of our solar system are porous, and the cosmos leaks through. So when astronomers plot the trajectory of Three-Eye Atlas, when they watch it slice toward Mars, they are not merely tracing the orbit of a rock. They are tracing the boundary of our ignorance, the thin line between what we call natural and what we dare not name. And here, with the third visitor, we must pause and ask, what does it mean to be a visitor? Do rocks visit? Do comets arrive with intent? The word implies relationship, interaction, purpose. Yet we chose it. We named them visitors. Perhaps because deep down we sense that something in their arrival feels like more than chance. Perhaps because in every mythology, the third arrival changes the story. ʻOumuamua startled us awake, Borisov soothed us, then unsettled us again. Three Atlas now stands before us, brighter, nearer, stranger. The third act has begun, and just as the curtain rises, the first true anomaly appears. An anomaly not of speed, not of size, not of trajectory, but of number. For in the nights that followed its discovery, telescopes noticed faint points of light trailing behind it. Multiplying, shifting. It was not alone. At first it was only a suspicion, a faintness in the data, a scatter of points that might have been noise. Astronomers are trained to distrust noise. It is everywhere in their work, the static of cosmic rays striking detectors, the glint of satellites wandering through exposures, the atmospheric turbulence that bends and blurs starlight. But noise has a quality. It is random. It drifts like mist. This was different. This had shape. When the earliest reports came in, they were hesitant. One observatory in Chile noted that on 2 successive nights, The object seemed elongated in a way that could not be explained by its rotation alone. A faint smear trailed behind it, but too structured, too consistent to be dismissed as a camera artifact. Then, days later, an observatory in Spain confirmed something similar. Faint points of light trailing behind 3i Atlas, barely perceptible against the sky's darkness, but real enough to register. And then came the breakthrough. The Subaru telescope in Hawaii, with its wide field of view and sensitive instruments, captured a deep exposure. There, surrounding 3 Atlas like attendants around a monarch, were several smaller fragments of light, dim, shifting, multiplying. The first question was simple. Was it breaking apart? Comets often fragment. Heat from the sun seeps into their frozen cores, pressure builds and pieces tear free, scattering into trails of dust and debris. Borisov itself had shown signs of outgassing that threatened its stability. It was not unheard of for a comet to disintegrate into 1,000 fragments before reaching perihelion. But this did not look like that. The fragments of 3i Atlas were not ragged chaotic shards. They appeared discrete, point-like, as though each were a body of its own. They did not drift apart in random streams, but arranged themselves in loose formation, trailing the parent object with unnerving symmetry. The reports multiplied as quickly as the lights themselves. By early November, more than a dozen observatories had confirmed the phenomenon. Astronomers compared notes, overlaid their images, and plotted the relative motions. The fragments were real. They were not camera ghosts, not atmospheric illusions. They moved as if they were companions bound to the trajectory of 3i Atlas, and yet distinct from it. How many were there? At first, 3, then 5, then more. The number seemed to grow with every new night of observation. Some appeared, faded, reappeared again. Some brightened unexpectedly, as though they were reflecting sunlight from flat surfaces that caught the light only at certain angles. Others seemed to wink out entirely, vanishing into darkness. The population was fluid, mutable, as though what we were seeing was not simply a cluster of fragments, but something dynamic, something in motion beyond our models. Imagine, if you will, standing at the shore and watching a ship approach. Behind it trail smaller boats, first a few, then dozens, then a fleet. They are dim in the distance, but their formation is unmistakable. That is what the astronomers began to feel. The unsettling sense of convoy. Still, the rational explanations came first. Perhaps it was outgassing, chunks of ice sublimating into discrete clumps. Perhaps the light was scattering off dust clouds in strange ways, fooling our instruments into seeing shapes where none existed. Perhaps. Theories were proposed, tested, dismissed, yet the core fact remained. The more we looked, the more objects we saw. And then came the data from Mars. Several orbiters, already circling the red planet for routine science, were tasked with aiming their instruments outward, scanning the path of the incoming visitor. The images they returned, blurred and faint, nevertheless confirmed what ground-based telescopes suspected. There were multiple objects travelling together. They reflected light differently than expected. Their albedo, their reflective properties, were inconsistent, as though some were bright, metallic, while others were dark, carbon-rich. They did not spread chaotically as debris clouds do. They clustered. Here, then, was the first true anomaly. The Atlas was not a lone traveller. It had companions, whether born from its own disintegration or carried with it from interstellar space, or, and this thought came quietly, reluctantly, like a shadow creeping into the corner of the mind. Whether placed deliberately, the fact was undeniable. Something was multiplying as it approached Mars. The official announcements were cautious. Words like fragmentation, possible cluster, unusual outgassing. But behind the caution, unease grew. Scientists spoke privately of patterns that did not fit natural expectations. The fragments' brightness fluctuated as though they were tumbling, but the intervals were too regular, too sharp. Some compared the light curves to reflections from flat panels. Others noted that their distribution resembled not a random scatter, but a lattice, as though an invisible geometry guided them. And always the number grew. Night after night, observers logged new companions, some faint, some brighter. By December, the count had reached dozens. Not dust, not noise, but discrete points, each moving with the same velocity vector, each bound to the parent object by something more than chance. It is easy, in the calm of your room, to think of this as abstract. Numbers on a chart, pixels on a screen. But place yourself in the mind of the observer, awake at 3 in the morning, staring at images of the night sky. You expect a point of light, and you see instead a cluster, a swarm. You expect randomness, and you see order. And in that order, you feel the stirrings of intention. Of course, the official consensus resisted such leaps. It had to. Science does not permit whispers of alien fleets, not without overwhelming proof. But the imagination is harder to govern than consensus. In forums, in hushed discussions, in late-night musings, people began to wonder, had we just encountered our first evidence not of a single wandering rock, but of something else? Something structured, plural, coordinated. Some invoked the idea of a von Neumann probe, a self-replicating machine designed to scatter copies of itself across the galaxy. Others spoke of dormant seeds, drifting until they encountered a star, then multiplying, blooming like spores in a cosmic wind. Still others, more cautious, returned again and again to the word comet, clinging to the familiarity of it as one clings to a lifeboat in rough seas. But the lifeboat rocked with every new image. Mars loomed closer in 3i Atlas's path. The swarm, for that is what it had become, was on course to pass near the planet within months. Our machines, our eyes, our attention would be there to watch. And with each passing week, the question grew sharper, louder, impossible to silence. What exactly were we seeing? The anomaly was not a single odd measurement, not an error bar or a statistical fluke. It was persistent, repeatable, undeniable. The 3i Atlas was accompanied by companions, and those companions were multiplying. Imagine lying beneath the night sky and knowing that above you, beyond your vision, a cluster of objects from another star system is drifting past. You cannot hear them, you cannot touch them, and yet they are there, inescapable in their presence, silent as ghosts. You turn on your side, close your eyes, but the thought lingers. What if they are not fragments at all? What if they are something else? The Earth spins on, indifferent. People wake, go to work, live their lives. Children laugh, lovers embrace, wars burn. The sky remains unchanged to the naked eye, its stars unblinking. And yet, hidden within that stillness, the anomaly persists. Something is approaching Mars, something that multiplies, something we cannot yet explain. And as the weeks pass, the line between explanation and imagination begins to blur. The safety of science feels thinner now. The walls between fact and speculation tremble, and soon, very soon, they will fall. When confronted with the unknown, the human mind instinctively reaches for the familiar. Scientists are no different. Faced with the unsettling sight of 3i Atlas and its multiplying companions, the first wave of responses was not panic, nor wild speculation, but an attempt to clothe the anomaly in garments already known to us. And so the explanations began. The most obvious and the most often repeated was fragmentation. Comets fragment all the time. They are fragile bodies, conglomerates of ice, dust, and stone held together not by solid rock, but by the cold grip of frozen volatiles. When the sun's heat begins to penetrate their surfaces, these ices vaporize, releasing jets of gas that fracture the nucleus into smaller pieces. History offers many examples. Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9, broken into a chain of fragments before colliding spectacularly with Jupiter in 1994. Comet 73P Schwarzmann-Wachmann, which split into dozens of pieces in 2006. Even Comet Atlas itself, for which the Pan-STARRS survey is named, disintegrating in 2020 as it approached the Sun. Perhaps then 3i Atlas was following this familiar script. Perhaps the lights trailing behind it were simply shards of ice and rock, splitting off under solar stress, reflecting sunlight before dissolving into dust. It was a tidy explanation, elegant in its simplicity, and many were content to accept it. But questions lingered. The fragments of ordinary comets drift apart chaotically, spreading into arcs and streams. They do not arrange themselves in loose formation, nor do they multiply with the rhythm observed here, and they do not fade and reappear with such regularity, as though their surfaces were polished mirrors flashing light toward us on rotation. Still, fragmentation remained the headline explanation. The public, after all, is easier comforted by natural stories than by unanswered mysteries. Press releases spoke of a possible disintegration event. Diagrams compared the swarm to past comets that had fractured. The word normal appeared often, though always hedged with caution. Normal but unusual. Normal but puzzling. The second explanation leaned on outgassing. Comets are chemical factories, their interiors laced with exotic ices accumulated in the cold nurseries of their birth. When these ices sublimate, shifting directly from solid to gas, they can produce powerful jets, altering the object's spin, its brightness, even its trajectory. Oumuamua's strange acceleration, some argued, could have been explained this way, had it carried hydrogen ice or nitrogen snow, though none had ever been confirmed in such abundance. For 3C Atlas, perhaps the companions were not fragments at all, but transient clumps of gas and dust condensed around it, illuminated briefly before dissipating. Perhaps we were not seeing multiple bodies, but multiple ghosts, ephemeral structures born of venting plumes. The variability in brightness, the flashing, the apparent multiplication, all could be optical illusions caused by shifting jets. This too had a comfort to it. Outgassing is familiar, outgassing is natural. It asks no uncomfortable questions. A third explanation appealed to gravitational effects. The solar system is not empty. Its tides pull and stretch every traveller that wanders too close. The faint companions might be dust clumps caught in resonances, their motions guided by gravitational harmonics between Mars, the Sun, and 3I Atlas itself. Perhaps the swarm was a mirage of orbital mechanics, a temporary dance of particles that appeared structured but was not. It was plausible, at least in theory. Resonances sculpt the rings of Saturn, shaping gaps and arcs into graceful order. Could not similar forces sculpt a trail of dust into something resembling companions? For each explanation, papers appeared, models were drafted, simulations run, conferences filled with slides showing hypothetical fragmentation events, volatile mixtures, gravitational tides. The human effort to tame the unknown was in full display, to build fences of mathematics around what might otherwise roam wild in the imagination. And yet, beneath the surface, unease remained. Because fragmentation, while common, did not explain the symmetry. Outgassing, while powerful, did not explain the persistence of the companions across weeks. Gravitational sculpting, while elegant, did not account for the sudden appearances and disappearances of discrete points. Each natural explanation answered something, but left something else hanging, unresolved, like a shadow at the edge of the firelight. The debate became sharper. Some scientists clung to natural models with ferocity, unwilling to consider anything beyond them. Others, more cautious, admitted in their papers that the behaviour was unprecedented and not fully consistent with known processes. In private, over quiet conversations and emails that never made it to journals, a smaller group allowed their minds to wander into speculation. But speculation would come later, once the fortress of natural science had been thoroughly tested and found wanting. For now, the world was told the familiar story. Comets break, comets vent, comets scatter. This one too was breaking. This one too was venting. Nothing more, nothing strange. And yet, as weeks stretched into months, the anomaly persisted. The companions did not vanish. They grew in number. They shifted in ways no dust cloud should. Some brightened with startling intensity, as though for a heartbeat they had become tiny suns, before fading again. Others moved laterally, not drifting apart chaotically, but sliding into new positions like pieces on a board. Imagine lying beneath the night sky, told that what you see is only fragments, only dust, only gas. Yet in your dreams you see them lined like lanterns in procession, moving with purpose. Science assures you it is natural. Your heart whispers it is not. For the moment, science holds the microphone. The explanations are delivered in soothing tones, reinforced by precedent, dressed in familiar language. But those explanations carry the faintest tremor of strain, as though their fabric is stretched thin. It is in that strain, that tension between comfort and disquiet, that mystery thrives. And mystery, as always, waits for the moment when the walls of explanation begin to crack. Science is a fortress built on evidence. Its walls are stone, mortared with observation and testable prediction. But every fortress has cracks, and when the cracks widen, the cold winds of mystery begin to slip through. With 3 Atlas, the cracks appeared quickly, one by one, in the very explanations that were meant to reassure us. The first stone to shift was fragmentation. On paper, the idea was sound. Comets fragment. It is their nature. The sun's heat seeps in, gases build, internal stresses mount, and the nucleus splits apart, but 3 Atlas did not fracture like a comet. Its companions did not scatter chaotically into uneven shards and dust clouds. Instead, they appeared discrete, point-like, separated by distances too regular to dismiss. When astronomers plotted their motions, they did not behave like debris. Debris drifts outward, spreads thin, dissolves into chaos. The companions of 3I Atlas held formation. They followed trajectories nearly parallel to the parent body, as though bound to it by more than gravity's leash. They did not evaporate after days, but persisted for weeks, months. More troubling still, the number of companions did not remain constant. It grew. Fragmentation is a finite process. A comet can break only so many times before it is dust. But the fragments of 3I Atlas seemed to multiply like a sequence unfolding, new points appearing where none had been before, and some just as mysteriously faded and then reappeared again, as if they had not truly vanished but simply turned their faces away from us. This was no ordinary disintegration. The second Walter Weaken was outgassing. Yes, comets vent gas and dust when sunlight strikes volatile ices. These plumes can form jets, accelerate rotation, even alter orbits. Perhaps some argued the companions were illusions, clumps of dust and gas, briefly condensed and illuminated, drifting with the wind of sublimation. But if that was so, their brightness should have been diffuse, their edges soft. Instead, telescopes recorded sharp points, clean and discrete, as though they were solid. Dust clouds scatter light evenly, blurring like mist. These companions twinkled. They flared and dimmed with a rhythm that suggested surfaces, flat planes reflecting sunlight at angles. Some astronomers compared their light curves to the gleam of tumbling panels, flashing intermittently as they turned. No plume of dust behaves this way. And there was another problem. Outgassing is fueled by heat, strongest when a comet is nearest to the sun. Yet 3I Atlas's companions appeared too early, at distances where solar heating should have been weak. They also persisted longer than the lifespan of any plume, refusing to fade into invisibility. If these were illusions of gas, then they were illusions with structure. The third explanation, gravitational sculpting, fared no better. The solar system's tides are subtle artists, shaping rings and streams into arcs of beauty. Dust can be shepherded into order by resonances, forming bands and waves, but such forces do not act quickly, nor do they produce discrete points. The companions of 3I Atlas moved too precisely, too closely with the parent, to be the result of long-term resonance. Their sudden appearances and vanishings could not be traced to the slow harmonics of orbits. One team attempted to model the cluster as a set of dust clumps caught in Mars's weak gravity, imagining that the red planet itself was influencing the swarm, but the math refused to cooperate. The timing was wrong, the distances inconsistent, the motions too stubbornly parallel. Gravity had no fingers delicate enough to arrange such a formation. By late December, the fortress of natural explanations looked less like stone and more like scaffolding, hastily assembled, full of gaps. The scientific papers continued, each hedging its language with possibly, likely, consistent with. Yet between the lines, a different tone emerged. Words like unprecedented, unexplained, and anomalous crept in, as if reluctant confessions. Publicly, the message remained steady. Natural causes, nothing to fear. Privately, in the quiet corners of conferences and late-night emails, unease grew. Because anomalies do not vanish when we look away, they accumulate. Consider the flickering. If the companions were fragments or dust, their light should have dimmed smoothly with distance. Instead, their brightness pulsed. Some lit up for seconds or minutes, then faded, only to reappear later. The intervals were too sharp, the peaks too sudden. One astronomer, speaking off record, compared them to the glint of mirrored satellites in Earth orbit. But these were not satellites. These were hundreds of millions of kilometers away, trailing a body from the stars. Consider the multiplication. Fragmentation produces a finite cascade, but the number of companions grew in ways difficult to reconcile. Some appeared where none had been. Others seemed to merge, then split again. The tally rose and fell like the beating of a strange, distant heart. And consider the geometry. Observations from multiple telescopes, when overlaid, suggested that the companions did not drift randomly, but held loose formation, their spacing echoing patterns. Not perfect, not rigid, but suggestive, as though bound by invisible threads. These were cracks in the wall, cracks through which the cold breath of speculation began to flow. Still, the fortress held, if barely. Scientists clung to the language of comets, of outgassing, of fragmentation, because the alternative was too vast to name. To leap beyond was to leave the safety of science, to wander into myth and nightmare. And so the explanations continued, patched and repatched, even as their seams groaned under the strain. Meanwhile, the world went on unaware. News of Thrius Atlas rarely reached beyond specialized journals and niche headlines. To most, it was nothing more than a name, a curiosity. But for those watching closely, it was a shadow growing on the horizon, a question swelling louder by the day. The James Webb Space Telescope turned its gaze again, its infrared eye peeling back layers invisible to ground-based observatories. What it saw only deepened the mystery. The companions reflected light inconsistently, as though some were dark and cold, while others gleamed hot, their surfaces absorbing and re-radiating energy in ways no simple fragment should. Their spectra bore traces of elements unusual in comets, hints of metals where ice should dominate. The fortress trembled. Astronomers whispered, though not in official statements. Some compared the companions to glittering shards, others to panels. A few, bolder still, allowed the word artificial to slip into their notes, though always followed by caveats, apologies, retreat. Because science demands humility, science demands restraint, and yet there comes a point where restraint becomes silence, and silence becomes complicity in ignorance. By January, the cracks in the wall were undeniable. Fragmentation could not explain the persistence. Outgassing could not explain the sharp reflections. Gravity could not explain the formation. The fortress was crumbling, and the unknown was seeping in. It is at this threshold, this trembling edge, that we find ourselves now. The safe ground of natural explanation lies behind us. Before us, the terrain grows dark, uncharted. The wind carries whispers of speculation, of probes, of seeds, of intentions hidden in silence. And soon, inevitably, we must decide. Do we turn back, clinging to explanations that no longer fit, or do we step forward into the unknown? The choice, of course, is no choice at all. The anomaly persists, the data is relentless, and the night sky will not be tamed by our comfort. The wall has cracked, the fortress cannot hold forever, and beyond its failing stones, something waits. There comes a point in every story where the mind needs to rest. We have walked together through discovery, through data, through anomalies and explanations that crumble like sand in the hand. The fortress of science has shown its cracks, mystery presses in, and yet you are safe here. Close your eyes if you wish. Imagine the night sky above you, a black ocean, so wide that the earth beneath you feels small, like a raft adrift. The stars are scattered across it in silence, each a pinprick of fire, each unimaginably far away. You can breathe slowly beneath this sky, knowing that no matter what questions swirl in the minds of astronomers, the stars themselves remain steady. They have burned for millions, even billions of years. Tonight, they burn still. Picture yourself lying in a quiet place. Perhaps it is a field at midnight, the grass cool beneath your back, the air crisp and clean. Perhaps it's a balcony in a city where the lights glow dimly, and only a few stars break through the haze. Or perhaps it is a dreamscape, a shoreline of the cosmos itself where the horizon curves away into eternity. Wherever you choose, feel the calm settle. Above you, the Milky Way arcs like a river of light. It is so vast that you could walk for lifetimes across its span and never reach its end. Every star you see is a sun, every sun may host planets, and every planet may carry its own stories. Billions upon billions, more than your mind can truly hold. The galaxy is not empty, it is alive with possibility. Yet in all that immensity, here you are, a single person, breathing, listening, resting. The vastness does not crush you, it carries you, like a tide carries a boat. Your worries shrink in its embrace. Whatever unknowns move out there among the stars, they are distant. What matters now is the rhythm of your breath, the slow beating of your heart, the gentle drift of your thoughts as they begin to loosen, like leaves floating on still water. The planets circle in silence. Mercury, close to the sun, a scorched and rocky bead of metal. Venus, veiled in its golden shroud. Earth, your home, spinning endlessly, blue and green beneath its thin layer of air. Mars, cold and rust-red, waiting ahead of the visitor that has stirred our questions. Beyond Jupiter and Saturn, titans of gas wrapped in storms. Uranus, Neptune, the frozen worlds of the Kuiper Belt. All of them spin on, undisturbed, their orbits steady, their silence eternal. It is easy to forget in the tension of mystery how much of the universe is still and calm. For every anomaly, there are countless stars whose light behaves exactly as expected. Countless comets whose tails unfurl in familiar arcs. The cosmos is not only strange, it is also reliable. Patterns endure. The constellations above you, Orion, Cassiopeia, the Pleiades, have guided travellers for thousands of years, and they remain tonight unshaken. Let us walk through the constellations together. There is Orion, the hunter, rising in the east. His belt is made of 3 stars in a line, bright and clear. Just below them glows a patch of nebulous light, the Orion Nebula, where stars are born from clouds of gas. You could gaze at it for hours, imagining the nursery of suns, the cradles of planets yet unborn. Above Orion lies Taurus, the bull, with the bright red eye of Aldebaran burning softly. Near it, the Pleiades, a cluster of stars like a handful of diamonds scattered across velvet. These stars are young, only 100 million years old, their light sharp and cold. To the north, Cassiopeia curves like a W, a throne of light across the sky. Farther still, the pole star Polaris holds steady, guiding those who wander. Each of these is steady. Each is a reminder that while visitors come and go, while anomalies appear and vanish, the great architecture of the heavens endures. You may rest beneath it as countless generations have done. You may feel its permanence as a balm against uncertainty. Now imagine lifting yourself from Earth, rising gently, as though on a quiet current of air. The ground falls away, the horizon curves, the planet shrinks beneath you. You see the oceans glimmer, the continents lit by cities and storms. Higher still, and the Earth becomes a sphere blue and white and fragile. The moon circles silent and faithful. Higher still, and the Earth and moon are a pair of jewels. The sun glows beyond, bright and immense, a golden lantern in the dark. The planets spin around it in graceful orbits, their paths invisible but sure. Beyond them, the stars spread in infinite tapestry. Here, in this imagined vantage, you feel the immensity without fear. You see how small the Visitor 3i Atlas truly is, just a fragment among billions, crossing paths for a brief moment. It is easy to become lost in its strangeness, but from this height you remember perspective. You remember that the cosmos is more than anomalies, it is a symphony of order. Let that thought ease you. Let it soften the tension that is built in the story so far. The unknown is vast, yes, but so too is the known, and the known is enough to cradle you, to remind you that you are safe here and now, in this small moment of listening, resting, drifting. Breathe. Imagine the stars not as cold points of fire, but as candles glowing across a dark hall, each flame steady, each giving light without sound. They burn quietly, patiently, without judgment. You are one among them, a brief flame in the same great hall. You belong. Time itself seems to slow in this space. Minutes stretch like silk. The weight of your body sinks into the bed, or the chair, or the grass beneath you. The story pauses, not ending, only resting. Like a traveller at a campfire, you sit in the circle of warmth before the journey resumes. For now, you need not worry about anomalies multiplying near Mars, nor fragments flashing like mirrors in the dark. Those questions will still be there when you're ready to face them. For now, you may let go. You may let the stillness of the sky settle into you, smoothing your thoughts like water smoothing stone. Above you the stars remain. The river of the Milky Way flows endlessly, and in that flow you find calm. Soon we will return to the story. Soon we will leave the safe harbour of explanation and step into speculation, where imagination begins to breathe alongside fact. But not yet. For this moment, all is quiet, all is steady. Rest in that quiet, rest in that steadiness. The cosmos is vast. You are small, and yet you are part of it. Every story has a threshold, a place where the road of certainty ends and the path ahead fades into mist. With 3i Atlas, we have reached that threshold. The fortress of science has been tested, its walls cracked, its explanations patched and repatched until the seams split open. Fragmentation could not explain the precision. Outgassing could not explain the sharp reflections. Gravity could not explain the persistence. And so, we find ourselves standing at the edge of the known, peering into the shadows beyond. It is tempting to linger at the edge, to keep circling the same natural explanations like a bird unwilling to fly across open water. But the data waits, insistent. The companions multiply. The lights flicker. The trajectories hold formation. We can circle forever, or we can step forward. From here we must leave the safety of science. From here we must enter speculation. Do not be alarmed by the word. Speculation is not wildness, nor is it unmoored fantasy. It is simply the act of asking, what if? Science itself was born from that question, from the moment a human looked at the stars and wondered. Tonight we allow ourselves to wonder, gently, carefully, in whispers, as though not to disturb the silence of the sky. Imagine then that 3i Atlas is not a mere comet. Imagine it is something else. What could that be? The first possibility, raised quietly by some, is that it is a probe. Not a probe in the way we build them, with rivets and solar panels and blinking lights, but something older, stranger, designed by hands or minds we have never known. Perhaps it drifts through the galaxy as a messenger, a scout sent from one star to another. Its companions, then, might be smaller probes released from a parent craft, scattering to study, to signal, or to seed. It is only a hypothesis. And yet when the companions brighten suddenly, like mirrors flashing, the mind cannot help but wonder, are they signalling? Or are they simply tumbling shards of rock, catching the sunlight in ways we do not yet understand? There is another possibility. Perhaps 3 Atlas is not a probe at all, but debris. Imagine an ancient civilization, long extinct, its artifacts cast into interstellar space by catastrophe. A planet destroyed, a fleet shattered, a city flung outward by the death of its sun. Over millions of years, fragments of that ruin could drift, crossing the gulfs between stars until by chance they enter our skies. The companions, then, would not be active, not purposeful, but relics, broken shards of a story long ended. This too is speculation, and yet when the companions arrange themselves in formation, it feels less like ruins and more like design. There are other whispers, older still. Perhaps 3i Atlas is a seed, not of biology, but of technology, a self-replicating machine designed to scatter copies of itself across the galaxy. Such an idea was first imagined by human scientists decades ago. The von Neumann probe, a craft that can harvest resources, build replicas, and spread like spores on the cosmic wind. If such machines exist, they would not be rare. They would be inevitable, multiplying until they filled the galaxy, and yet, until now, we have never seen them. Or perhaps we have, and failed to recognize them, and so the mind wanders further, into darker territories. Could the multiplication of companions be the beginning of such replication? Are we witnessing a process, a mechanism unfolding before our eyes, too vast to comprehend? Or are we only seeing the familiar, clothed in the unfamiliar, mistaking dust and ice for intention? Speculation is a dangerous gift. It can comfort, but it can also terrify. It is the voice that says, perhaps these are only fragments, and it is also the voice that says, perhaps they are watching. Here we must pause, not to retreat, but to remind ourselves of scale. 3 Atlas, for all its strangeness, is small compared to the vastness of the cosmos. It is a fragment, a shard, a speck among billions. It drifts silently, indifferent to our fears. The universe is vast beyond comprehension, and what we see may be nothing more than coincidence magnified by our hunger for meaning. And yet, coincidence is a fragile shield. For how many coincidences must we accept before the word itself begins to fray? ʻOumuamua, elongated and accelerating. Borisov, cometry yet alien in chemistry. And now 3i Atlas, flickering and multiplying. 3 visitors in less than a decade after billions of years of silence. How many times must the dice fall before we begin to wonder if the game is weighted? This is the pivot. The place where we stop asking only, what is it made of, and begin asking, well, what is it for? It is not a comfortable question. It carries with it implications heavier than stone. If it is natural, then it's only a curiosity. If it is not, then it is something else entirely. and we must consider why it is here. The listener, you, need not be afraid. These are only thoughts, drifting like clouds across the sky. You're safe where you are, in your bed, in your chair, in your quiet space. The stars above are steady, and Third Atlas is far away. No threat to you tonight. What we're doing now is no more dangerous than telling a story by firelight. Speculation is a story, and stories are how we explore the shadows without stepping into them. But stories matter. They linger. They shape the questions we ask tomorrow. And so, as the companions of Third Atlas multiply against the black canvas of space, as the natural explanations falter, as the fortress of science shows its cracks, we take our first step into speculation, into the what-ifs, into the possibilities that lie beyond the safe harbour of what we know. From here the road grows darker. From here we speak not only of comets and rocks, but of probes, of ruins, of seeds, of intentions hidden or long forgotten, carried across the interstellar sea. From here we begin to ask the questions that make the night feel deeper and the silence heavier. From here the story changes. Let us imagine together that Third Atlas is not merely a cometary fragment, nor a natural wanderer of the void. Let us entertain, carefully and quietly, the possibility that it is something else, something built, something designed, something that carries with it intention, even if that intention has long since faded. Begin with the idea of a probe. The concept is not alien to us. Humanity itself has already built messengers and cast them into the dark. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 drift beyond the edge of the solar system, their golden records etched with greetings and music. Pioneer 10 and 11 sail outward as well, carrying plaques engraved with the figures of humanity. New Horizons, having passed Pluto, continues deeper into the Kuiper Belt. They are tiny, fragile, powered by dwindling sparks of energy, but they are probes, emissaries of Earth. If we, a young civilization, have already sent such fragile messengers into interstellar space, how much more could an older, more advanced civilization achieve? Imagine the span of millions of years, the patience of a species not bound by our lifespans. Imagine technologies that make ours seem primitive, materials that do not decay, power sources that do not fade. A probe built by such hands might drift for eons, functioning still, carrying with it not only information, but perhaps purpose. Could Third Atlas be such a probe? Its companions, then, might be auxiliary units, deployed as it entered a new star system. They multiply, not because of fragmentation, but because they are meant to spread, to observe, to test. They flicker not because they tumble, but because they signal, brightening in intervals that we, from our distance, misinterpret as random. It is only a hypothesis. Yet when we imagine it, the image fits with an uncanny neatness. The multiplication, the formation, the persistence, all the things natural explanations struggle to contain, this vision embraces. But if it is a probe, then for whom does it speak, and what message does it carry? Perhaps it is an emissary designed to observe silently. A cosmic scout watching and recording, never revealing itself openly, only passing through and moving on. If so, then we are not its target, merely an incidental part of its journey. We are ants glimpsed from a passing train, noticed but unremarkable. Or perhaps it is more than a scout. Perhaps it is a seed of contact, programmed to awaken when it finds a star with planets, to multiply and spread, to leave markers in orbit. Its flickering companions, then, would be not mere fragments, but devices unfolding, preparing for a purpose we do not yet understand. The mind trembles at such thoughts, and yet, in the stillness of the night, they do not feel impossible. Let's turn now to another possibility. Perhaps Third Atlas is not a functioning probe at all, but debris. Imagine an ancient civilization that flourished around a distant sun. Imagine its cities, its technologies, its machines. And then imagine its fall. A war that shattered its world, a star that swelled and consumed it, a slow decline that left ruins to drift. Over millions of years, fragments of that lost world would be ejected into space, wandering without purpose. Some would break into dust. Others would remain intact, hardened against time. Third Atlas, in this vision, would be one such relic, a shard of something once whole. Its companions might be other shards, bound by chance or by residual structure. Their flickering might be the echo of technologies long dead, panels once meant to catch starlight, now only tumbling mirrors. Their multiplication might not be replication, but the slow unravelling of a ruin, pieces breaking free as it passes near the warmth of a new sun. If so, then what we see is not an active visitor but a drifting grave, a message, but not one sent deliberately, rather a message by accident saying only, "We were here, and now we are gone." This possibility too carries weight. It would mean the galaxy has held civilizations before us, and will likely hold them after us. It would mean we are not unique, nor first, nor guaranteed to last. We are one flame in a hall where others have burned and gone dark. Probe or debris, both visions unsettle in different ways. One suggests presence, the other absence. One suggests we are observed, the other that we are heirs to a symmetry of the cosmos. Both stretch the imagination beyond the comfort of rocks and ice. Both force us to consider our place in a galaxy that may not be as silent as we once believed. Pause here and breathe. Remember that these are only speculations, possibilities, dreams shaped by data and wonder. You are safe, resting, listening. The stars above continue to burn, indifferent, eternal. What we imagine tonight cannot harm you. It can only open doors in the mind, doors that let you glimpse a larger world. Return for a moment to the image of Voyager drifting beyond our system. Now imagine if another civilization's Voyager had passed through ours. Would we recognize it? Or would we mistake it for a rock, a comet, a shard? Would we see its signals as noise, its formation as coincidence? Perhaps we already have, and perhaps 3 Atlas is the third such messenger to whisper across our skies. 3 visitors, 3 chances, 3 questions unanswered. In myth, the third arrival often brings resolution. The first shocks, the second repeats, the third reveals. If that pattern holds, then 3 Atlas may not be simply another mystery, but the opening of a deeper truth. Probe or debris, living or dead, intentional or accidental. Whatever it is the third act of a story we did not know we were part of. And so, as it approaches Mars, trailing its multiplying companions, we watch. We measure, we wonder, we speculate. If it is a probe, then we are seen. If it is debris, then we are warned. Either way, the message is clear. The universe is not empty. From here, our journey grows darker still. For the next step in speculation leads us into questions not only of what 3i Atlas is, but of what it means. What kind of civilization could create it? What purpose could it serve? And what does its presence imply for us? Fragile and unready as we are beneath the endless night, the answers, if they come at all, will not soothe. They will not lull us back into comfort, but they will sharpen our sense of wonder and deepen the silence around us until the stars themselves seem to lean closer, listening. This is where we stand now, no longer in the fortress of science, but in the open field of speculation. Ahead lies a horizon we can barely see, and beyond it, perhaps, the truth of 3 Atlas. Probe, debris, or something stranger still. It is here, and it has changed us simply by passing through. If we allow ourselves to imagine that 3i Atlas is more than rock and ice, that it is probe, debris, or seed, then the next question rises quietly, like the tide. What kind of civilization could have made it? To even form the question is to stretch the human mind beyond its usual frame. For civilizations, as we know them, rise and fall in centuries. 1,000 years feels immense to us. 10,000 is the span of all recorded history. 1,000,000 years is beyond our ability to truly grasp. Yet in cosmic terms, 1,000,000 years is nothing more than a blink. Stars burn for billions. Galaxies rotate slowly as if time itself was syrup. If civilizations exist beyond our own, some may be ancient beyond imagination. So let us imagine. The simplest possibility is that 3i Atlas comes from a civilization much like ours, only older. A species that looked up at its stars, asked the same questions we ask, built telescopes, built rockets, and eventually built machines capable of crossing interstellar distances. Such a species might launch probes as we have, tiny scouts, cast into the dark with instructions to endure. Over time, those probes might drift across light years, arriving here by chance, still functioning, or perhaps only partially alive, their purposes eroded by ages of travel. This is a comforting vision, because it mirrors us. It suggests kinship, a parallel. If they built probes, then perhaps we're not alone in our curiosity. Perhaps the urge to explore is universal. But there are other visions, less comforting, more vast. Consider the idea of the Kardashev scale, a way humans have tried to measure civilizations by the energy they command. Type 1 civilizations harness the energy of their planet. Type 2 civilizations harness the energy of their star, perhaps through vast structures like Dyson spheres. Type 3 civilizations harness the energy of their galaxy itself, spanning billions of stars. Humanity today is not even fully Type 1. We are children still, but if Thrisk Atlas is a probe, perhaps it was built by hands that have long since ascended to these higher rungs. What would such a civilization look like? Its timescales would dwarf ours. Its patience would stretch across millennia. To build a probe and wait millions of years for it to drift between stars would not feel absurd. It would feel natural, inevitable. For them, the galaxy would not be empty, but a network, each star a node, each probe a messenger. And if they can build probes that endure for millions of years, then what else might they build? Machines that think, machines that repair themselves, machines that replicate. A probe like 3I Atlas could carry within it the ability to scatter seeds, to multiply until its children fill a system. Might be scout, scientist, gardener, or something stranger. But purpose is the heart of the question. Why send such a thing? One possibility is exploration. Perhaps it is only a scout, a cosmic voyager, sent to collect data and beam it back across centuries. If so, then somewhere in the galaxy, perhaps far beyond the reach of our telescopes, a civilization may be receiving faint whispers of our system, signals delayed by light years but still decipherable. They may see our planets, our sun, perhaps even our transmissions. To them we are as faint as static, and yet we are visible. Another possibility is contact. Perhaps the probe carries instructions, messages, artifacts. Perhaps it was meant to be found, to be intercepted, to awaken curiosity in any civilization advanced enough to see it. The multiplying companions, then, might be beacons, dropped like breadcrumbs across the void, waiting for us to pick them up. If so, the purpose may be benign, an outstretched hand, an invitation. But contact can carry shadows. To reveal oneself is to risk danger, and so perhaps the probe is not invitation but test, to see who notices, who responds, who reaches. The galaxy may be filled with watchers, civilizations cautious of revealing themselves. A probe like 3I Atlas may be less gift than snare, a question placed in the sky to see who answers. There is a darker possibility still. Perhaps the purpose is colonization. Not conquest in the way humans imagine it, with armies and banners, but a quiet seeding of systems with machines that multiply, harvest and grow. A civilization seeking only survival might scatter such seeds across the stars, letting them drift until chance brings them to fertile systems. If 3I Atlas is such a seed, then its multiplication near Mars may be the beginning of that process. Or perhaps the purpose is one we cannot imagine at all. To assume we can understand is to assume kinship, but the minds that built such things may be unlike ours in every way. Their goals may be incomprehensible. What looks like debris to us may be message to them. What looks like multiplication may be art or ritual or something beyond even those words. It is humbling to admit our ignorance. Humbling, but also freeing. For speculation is not about certainty, it is about possibility. And in the silence of the night, possibility can be as vast as the stars themselves. Pause for a moment. Breathe. Let your body sink deeper into rest. These thoughts are heavy, but you need not carry them. Let them drift past like clouds. You are safe here. You are only listening. Now let us return to time. If 3I Atlas is a probe, it may have travelled for millions of years. Millions! In that span, civilizations may have risen and fallen. The makers may no longer exist. Their sun may have burned out, their world reduced to dust. And yet, their probe endures, drifting still, carrying their memory even as they are gone. To think of this is to glimpse cosmic archaeology, the study not of bones or pottery, but of machines older than history itself. 3I Atlas may be a fossil in motion, a relic of minds long dead. To witness it is to peer into deep time, to see not just across space, but across eras beyond our own. And if that is so, then what does it say about us? It says that civilizations are not eternal, that survival is not guaranteed, that even the most advanced can vanish, leaving only fragments drifting among the stars. The great filter, some call it, the barrier that stops civilizations from growing forever. Perhaps 3i Atlas is evidence that the filter exists, and that we too may one day leave only ruins behind. Or perhaps it says something gentler, that even in death civilizations leave traces, that the galaxy remembers, that across the abyss of time and space memory persists in artifacts, in wanderers, in visitors. Whether probe or debris, the implication is the same. We are not alone. The universe has been shaped by more than chance. Others have walked it before us. The thought is vast. It can be terrifying, but it can also be comforting. For in that vastness, we are no longer children lost in an empty dark. We are participants in a story larger than ourselves. Tonight, as you rest beneath the stars, let that thought settle in you like a soft weight. You are part of a cosmos that has been touched by other hands. You are a witness to a story written long before your birth and still unfolding. 3 Atlas drifts toward Mars, its companions multiplying, its mystery deepening. Whether probe, debris, or something beyond both, it carries with it a message. The universe is alive with possibility. And possibility, though unsettling, is the root of wonder. There is a discipline of the imagination we might call cosmic archaeology. Archaeology, as we know it on Earth, is the study of traces, fragments of pottery, bones, the foundations of forgotten houses. From shards and dust we reconstruct the lives of those who came before us. We bend over fragments, brushing them gently from the soil, and in doing so, we awaken entire civilizations. Now imagine carrying that practice into the cosmos. Imagine brushing the dust not from an ancient city buried beneath sand, but from a fragment drifting through interstellar space. That fragment is 3i Atlas. Its companions, faint and multiplying, are not tools or treasures we can hold in our hands, but glimmers of a mystery written across the void. If 3i Atlas is not a functioning probe, if it carries no active mission, then perhaps it is a ruin, the fossil of a vanished civilization. In this light, the object is not speaking to us, not signaling, not watching. It is silent because its makers are silent, and yet, like pottery shards, silence itself tells a story. Consider what happens when civilizations fall. On Earth we know this intimately. Cities rise, empires stretch outward, then collapse. Walls crumble, languages vanish, statues topple into the earth, but traces remain. A chipped bowl, a bronze coin, a tablet of clay. From these fragments we know the people lived, that they struggled, that they dreamed. Why should it be any different among the stars? Perhaps somewhere, long ago, there was a world orbiting a star not unlike our sun. On that world, perhaps a species rose to build, to create, to wonder. They reached a height where they could shape machines, perhaps even launch them into space, and then catastrophe. Perhaps war, perhaps environmental collapse, perhaps the slow hunger of time itself. Whatever the cause, the civilization ended. Its cities turned to ruins. Its star may have even died, expanding and swallowing its planets. But in the process, fragments were cast outward, flung into the interstellar dark. 3i Atlas in this imagining is one such fragment. Its companions are not active probes, but shards of technology or architecture, still holding together after millions of years. Their flickering is not signal, but the glint of ruined surfaces turning in the light, mirrors of machines once whole. Their multiplication is not replication, but the slow unravelling of structure. A tower collapsing in silence, its stones drifting apart but still recognisably aligned. If so, then what we are watching is not a visitor with purpose, but a funeral procession, passing unnoticed through the solar system. This possibility is sobering, for if ruins drift among the stars, it means civilizations before us have not endured. The galaxy may not be empty because life is rare, but because it is fragile. Civilizations may bloom like flowers, bright for a season, then scatter their petals into the void. We may be one such bloom, and yet there is a strange comfort in this too. To find a ruin is to find proof of company. To discover 3i Atlas as debris is to know that we are not the first. Others have walked the same path, asked the same questions, built machines against the silence. To drift among their ruins is to be part of a larger story, one that stretches beyond us in both directions, backward into the memory of others, forward into the possibility of still more to come. Cosmic archaeology also invites us to wonder at time itself, for ruins on Earth last thousands of years. The pyramids, 5,000 years old, still stand. The ruins of Göbekli Tepe, 10,000 years old still speak of their builders, but ruins in space may endure for millions, even billions. A probe drifting an interstellar vacuum suffers no erosion from wind or rain. A fragment of alloy may remain intact for eons, long after its makers are dust. This means that 3 Atlas, if it is a ruin, could be unimaginably old. Older than our species, older than Earth's civilizations, perhaps older than our planet itself. It may have drifted since before life crawled from the seas, carrying with it the fingerprint of hands or minds long gone. To witness it now in our brief moment of existence is almost miraculous, like finding a fossil from an age before ages, a relic of a history we never lived. And yet, what if ruins do not endure forever? What if most have dissolved, leaving only the rarest traces? If so, then the odds of encountering even one are astronomical. To meet 3 interstellar visitors in a decade, ʻOumuamua, Borisov, and now 3I Atlas, may suggest that the galaxy is thick with them. Debris, ruins, fragments of countless civilizations, scattered like ashes across the stars. Imagine the galaxy as a great sea dotted with wreckage. Some ships still sail, unseen, others have sunk, but the sea carries their planks, their bottles, their drifting cargo. Every now and then, a piece washes ashore. We find it, examine it, and in it, we glimpse a ghost. That is what cosmic archaeology offers, the study of ghosts, not of the dead, but of those who lived and were lost. There is melancholy here, yes, but also awe, for to see ruins is to be reminded of impermanence, but also of presence. Something was here before us. Something made this. Something existed, and therefore existence is not ours alone. Perhaps the companions of 3I Atlas are tombstones, floating in orbit around a parent shard. Perhaps they are fragments of a larger structure, shattered in transit. Perhaps they are merely echoes of a ruin's geometry, preserved in their spacing, like the layout of a city still visible from the air long after its buildings are gone. To see them is to feel both small and vast. Small, because we are one civilization among many, fragile and temporary. Vast, because we are connected to a history greater than ourselves. We are not alone in rising, nor will we be alone in falling. And if this is true, if 3I Atlas is truly the ruin of an extinct civilization, then what should we do with that knowledge? We cannot change their fate. We cannot speak with them, nor learn their language, nor revive their world. But we can learn humility. We can see in their silence a mirror of our own fragility. We can let their ruin be a warning, a reminder that survival is not guaranteed, that the great filter may wait for us too, or we can see it as inspiration. For even in ruin they left a trace. Even in death they left a message. We were here. Perhaps when we too are gone, our voyagers will drift into the skies of another system, and some distant beings will study them as we study 3I Atlas. Perhaps the cycle is endless. Civilizations rising, falling, leaving ruins, and in those ruins traces of one another. Cosmic archaeology is the archaeology of humility. To look at 3I Atlas as a ruin is to acknowledge that we are not eternal, but it is also to acknowledge that we are not alone. Others have existed, others have built, others have left their mark. Tonight, as you rest beneath your own sky, consider this. The earth beneath you is old, 4.5 billion years. Humanity is young, a mere heartbeat in cosmic time. Yet above you, drifting near Mars, is an object that may be older still, a relic not of geology, but of culture, of intelligence, of civilization. To think this is to let the mind fall into depths of time so deep that they feel like eternity. And in those depths we are not the first to wander. 3I Atlas continues on its path, companions multiplying, formation holding. Whether probe or ruin, whether alive or fossil, it carries with it a message we cannot ignore. That message may be tragedy, or it may be hope, but it is a message nonetheless, carved into the night by something other than ourselves. Cosmic archaeology does not give answers, it only gives fragments. From those fragments we build stories, and those stories shape how we see the universe and how we see ourselves. The ruin passes, we watch, we listen, we imagine, and in our imagining we brush away the dust of eons, uncovering not pottery or bones, but the possibility that we are part of a galaxy alive with memory. Patterns are what the human mind is built to seek. We look at clouds and see faces, at constellations and see hunters and bulls, at data, and see meaning. Sometimes those patterns are illusions. Sometimes they are the first glimpses of truth. The story of 3 Atlas lies somewhere between the two, suspended in the shimmering line between coincidence and intention. Let us gather what we know. A visitor appeared, the third of its kind, entering our solar system on a hyperbolic path. Too fast to be bound, too certain in its trajectory to be anything but interstellar. It was faint, irregular, flickering. Its composition was strange, its outgassing inconsistent. It bore traces of elements in unusual ratios, as though written in a dialect of chemistry not native to our own system. Then came the companions, at first faint, then many, multiplying, vanishing, reappearing, holding formation. Not dust clouds, not debris scattered chaotically, but discrete points that moved with uncanny discipline. Natural explanations were summoned. Fragmentation, outgassing, gravitational tides. Each explained one detail and failed another. Each built a wall, only for cracks to open again. The fortress of science held as long as it could, but its stones trembled beneath the weight of the data. And so speculation began. A probe, debris, a ruin, seeds of replication, relics of the dead. All these possibilities hovered at the edges of imagination, fragile, unprovable, and yet strangely coherent. Now we must connect the dots. What natural explanations could not reconcile, speculation holds together with eerie ease. The multiplication of companions, baffling under models of fragmentation, becomes comprehensible if they are machines, designed to divide, to deploy, to spread. The flickering inexplicable in dust clouds begins to look like signal, or at least like reflection from structured surfaces. The persistence of formation, beyond what gravity alone can sculpt, begins to resemble intention, or the shadow of design. This is not to say it is intention. It is only to note that the speculative frame seems to hold the picture better than the natural one, where science phrase imagination mends. Imagine for a moment that you are an archaeologist on Earth, uncovering ruins. You find a line of stones, evenly spaced. One explanation is chance. Rocks happen to have fallen in a row. Another is structure, that someone placed them there. Both are possible. But when the line extends, when the spacing holds, when other features appear, the balance tips. At some point, chance feels thinner than intention. So it may be with 3 Atlas. The dots of its companions, the flicker of their light, the rhythm of their appearance, all could be coincidence. But together they whisper of pattern, and patterns invite stories. Consider the timeline: ʻOumuamua, enigmatic, accelerating, tumbling like a shard of something engineered. Then Borisov, more familiar, cometry, a reassurance that the strange could still be natural. And now 3I Atlas, combining both, cometry in part, engineered in part, as though bridging categories. 3 visitors in a decade after billions of years of silence. The sequence itself feels like a message. They exist. They existed. They are here. Consider too the location. 3 Atlas does not swing past Earth but past Mars, the planet that has captured our imagination for centuries, the world we dream of colonizing. Coincidence, perhaps, or perhaps not. If one wished to study humanity, to test its reach, to watch its machines, there could be no better vantage than Mars, where our probes already circle, where our rovers already crawl. Even the anomalies of composition begin to fall into place. The irregular metals, the uneven albedo, the patchwork surface. These could be explained as layered materials, remnants of construction, shards of technology weathered by eons. They could also be natural, yes, but when joined with the other anomalies they lean towards story. This is how dots connect, individually dismissible, together undeniable. Of course, caution remains, patterns can deceive. The human mind is hungry for meaning, so hungry that it will build castles of intention from grains of sand. We must hold the balance between awe and humility. To leap too quickly is to fall into fantasy. To resist forever is to ignore the whispers of the data. Somewhere between lies truth. What then is the truth these dots suggest? Perhaps that the galaxy is not silent, only subtle. That ruins drift among the stars and that we, young and newly aware, have begun to notice them. Perhaps that probes scatter like seeds, and that 3I Atlas is only one among many, caught by chance in our telescopic net. Perhaps that the line between comet and construct is thinner than we thought, and that what we call natural may sometimes be otherwise. The implications ripple outward. If 3I Atlas is probe, then others exist. If it is ruin, then civilizations have risen and fallen before us. If it is seed, then the galaxy is alive with replication, and we may be living within its quiet bloom. Pause again here. Let these thoughts drift through you like mist. They're heavy, yes, but you do not need to hold them tightly. Let them float. Let them soften. You're only listening, only imagining. You are safe, and the stars remain steady above. Now return to the dots, the flickering light curves, the multiplying fragments, the persistent formation, the unusual chemistry, the trajectory toward Mars. One by one, each might be dismissed. Together they whisper. Together they form the faint outline of something larger, something that science alone cannot yet name. This is the moment when imagination becomes necessary. When connecting the dots requires not only data but story. When we must allow ourselves to say, what if? What if the companions are not fragments but scouts? What if the flickers are not chance but signal? What if the anomalies are not errors but clues? What if Third Atlas is not a comet at all, but a page torn from a book written by another hand, drifting across the galaxy until we found it? Such thoughts are not comfortable, but they are also not empty. They remind us that the universe is larger than our categories, stranger than our models, deeper than our fortress walls. They remind us that to live beneath the stars is to be surrounded by mystery, and perhaps, in connecting the dots, we are not only discovering what Third Atlas is, but what we are. Creatures who see patterns, creatures who imagine, creatures who find meaning in the silence of the night sky. Third Atlas continues to move, the companions continue to flicker, the dots connect, forming not answers but questions, questions larger than we can yet contain, and those questions lead us into the next shadow. For if this is probe or ruin or seed, then what follows? What does it mean for us, fragile and unready, standing on our small blue world? The dots form a constellation, and the constellation points forward, toward darker possibilities, toward the silence that may not be empty, toward the forest that may not be safe. We have connected the dots, and the picture they form leads us deeper still. There is a story we tell about the galaxy, a story whispered by astronomers and philosophers alike. It is called The Dark Forest. In this story, the universe is a silent woodland at night. Every civilization is a hunter, moving carefully through the trees. Each carries a torch, each must decide whether to light it. To reveal oneself is to risk being seen, and in the dark forest, being seen may mean death. Imagine then what it means when something like Third Atlas appears, a flickering light in the branches, a movement that does not belong, a visitor whose presence is not entirely explained. We might ask, is it only coincidence? Or is it a trigger, an opening in the silence, a knock at the door of the forest? For millions of years, Earth has been dark to the galaxy. Our light has been contained within the atmosphere, our voices unheard. Only in the last century have we begun to radiate, radio waves spilling into space, faint as whispers, 100 years of noise in a universe billions of years old. Perhaps no one has heard us yet. Perhaps many have, and chosen not to answer. But what if Third Atlas is the answer? Not to us directly, but to the presence of life in this corner of the galaxy. A scout passing through, marking our system, leaving signals behind for others to find. Its companions, multiplying, could be the breadcrumbs, the markers, the waypoints that say, here, something lives here. Something burns cities in the night. Something builds machines. The thought chills, but let us sit with it gently. Do not fear. You're safe in your room beneath your sky. We are only imagining. Yet imagination has power, and the power here is unease. If the dark forest is real, then every civilization faces a choice, hide or strike. Some may choose silence, living in the shadows forever. Others may strike first, eliminating potential rivals before they themselves are seen. And in this grim model, probes like Third Atlas may not be scouts of friendship, but scouts of caution, even scouts of war. Not war as we imagine it with fleets and weapons. War in the dark forest may be silent, distant, patient. To detect is to destroy. To be seen is to be erased. If Third Atlas is such a scout, then its multiplication of companions might be the scattering of eyes, spreading across Mars's orbit, recording our transmissions, mapping our planets, and beaming signals outward. Outward to where? To others, hidden in the trees. To hunters who wait. This is only a possibility, but the dots align disturbingly well. The flickers that resemble signals, the formation that resembles structure, the timing, arriving in the very decades when humanity has begun to climb into space to leave its cradle, the location, brushing close to Mars, our frontier, the world where our machines already stand. What if the message is not to us, but about us? What if 3i Atlas is not speaking but pointing, a cosmic finger saying, "Look here"? The Dark Forest story is not comfortable. It suggests that silence in the galaxy is not emptiness but fear, that civilizations are out there, listening in the dark, their torches unlit, their eyes wide, that the reason we have not heard them is not that they do not exist, but that they are hiding. And in such a forest, to stumble upon a light, a visitor flickering as it passes, may be a trigger that awakens all the hidden eyes at once. Pause here. Breathe. Remember, this is only speculation. You're safe, the stars are calm, the forest is only a metaphor. But metaphors have weight, and this one presses close. Let us ask, if 3i Atlas is a trigger, what follows? Perhaps nothing. Perhaps it is merely a mark, a whisper sent outward. The galaxy is vast, signals take centuries to cross it. If it is pointing to us, then the hunters may not arrive for thousands of years. We may be gone by then, our own torch extinguished, our story complete. In that case, 3i Atlas is not a threat, but only a reminder of the precariousness of existence. Or perhaps the hunters are closer. Perhaps they have always been close, waiting for signals. Perhaps 3i Atlas is not a marker at all, but bait. Something left deliberately to provoke us into action, to see how we respond. Will we reach for it? Will we send missions? Will we reveal ourselves in our eagerness? If so, then the multiplication of companions may not be observation but temptation. Each fragment a lure, each flicker a question. Will you look closer? Will you approach? Will you light your torch in the forest? This is the essence of the Dark Forest trigger, that 3i Atlas is not anomaly but strategy. That its presence here, now, in this decade is not chance but design. Of course, science cannot say this. Science remains cautious, grounded, silent where speculation runs. But you, here, listening in the quiet, can allow the thought to settle. You can allow yourself to wonder, what if the universe is not empty, but watchful? What if silence is not peace, but tension? What if 3i Atlas is the sound of a twig snapping in the forest at night, and now, all around us, unseen listeners turn their heads? The thought may keep you awake, but it need not. For even in the dark forest we are only one small creature, one flame among countless others. Our fears are real, but so is our wonder, and wonder has power too. There is a paradox here. To see 3i Atlas as a threat is to acknowledge the fragility of life, the vulnerability of civilizations. But to see it as a trigger is also to admit the existence of others, and that too is awe, for in being pointed at, we are recognized. In being marked, we are part of the map. Perhaps that is enough, to know that we are not alone, even if the forest is dark. And so we return to the image, a shard drifting near Mars, trailed by companions flickering in the light. The scientists measure, the data accumulates, the explanations fray. And beneath it all, the possibility grows that this is not a comet, not debris, not ruin, but something else. Something watching, something pointing, something triggering the next chapter of the story we have only just begun to read. The dark forest is silent, but silence is not absence, silence is listening, and in that silence, 3i Atlas flickers. There is another story, quieter than the dark forest, but no less unsettling. It is called The Great Filter. Imagine, if you will, the long path from dust to mind, from star stuff to consciousness. Along that path lie countless steps, the birth of life, the rise of multicellular creatures, the spark of intelligence, the building of civilization, the leap to the stars. Each step is a door, and at each door stands a gatekeeper. Some civilizations pass through, many do not. Somewhere on that path lies the Great Filter, the barrier that almost no one crosses. The question, whispered for decades by philosophers and astronomers, is simple. Where is the filter? Is it behind us, or is it ahead? If it is behind us, then perhaps life is so improbable, intelligence so rare, that we are the exception. Against impossible odds, we pass through, and now we walk a path most will never tread. If this is true, then the galaxy may be empty not because civilizations fail, but because they never begin. And in that emptiness, Our survival is more precious than we can know. But if the filter is ahead of us, then it waits like a silent wall, a barrier that few, if any, civilizations have crossed. War, collapse, resource exhaustion, self-destruction, cosmic catastrophes. Whatever its form, it erases those who approach it. They rise, they shine, and then they vanish, leaving only silence. And so, in the quiet of the night, we must ask, what if 3i Atlas is evidence of the filter? Consider the possibility that it is debris of the fallen. A ruin drifting across light years, the last trace of a civilization that reached high and then was struck down. Its multiplying companions are not scouts, but fragments, still orbiting the parent shard long after its makers are gone. Their flickers are not signals, but echoes, sunlight glinting off machines no longer alive. If this is true, then 3i Atlas is a grave marker, a drifting tomb saying, "We were here, and now we are not." In this vision, the great filter lies ahead. For if they could not survive, why should we? Their probes, their ruins, their seeds drift on, but their worlds are dust. They pass through the gates of progress as we're doing now, and somewhere beyond they found the wall. But there is another possibility. Perhaps 3 Atlas is not ruin, but mechanism. Perhaps the filter is not natural, not war, not famine, not entropy, but active, enforced. Imagine a galaxy where advanced civilizations are not merely unlucky but hunted. The moment they reveal themselves, they are noticed. The moment they rise too high, they are erased. If the dark forest is the metaphor of fear, then the great filter is its reality. A rule of survival written into the galaxy. You may grow, but not too far. You may speak, but not too loudly. You may build, but not without risk. In this light, 3 Atlas may not be neutral at all. It may be part of the filter, a scout not to explore but to confirm. Its companions may not only observe but record, marking us for whatever comes next. Perhaps not tomorrow, perhaps not for centuries, but in cosmic time, a blink. It is a chilling thought. And yet, to entertain it is to look directly at the silence of the stars. For we see no Dyson spheres, no stellar megastructures, no Type 3 civilizations blazing across galaxies. The universe is quiet where it should be loud. Something keeps it quiet. If 3i Atlas is that something, then we have glimpsed the hand of the filter. Pause here. Do not let the weight of the thought crush you. You are safe. You are breathing. These are only possibilities, stories whispered beneath the stars. They cannot harm you tonight. Still, the thought lingers. Imagine humanity's future. Imagine centuries of progress, colonies on Mars, cities in orbit, starships leaving the cradle, and then silence. Some barrier, some catastrophe, some external force. We vanish, as others did before. Our ruins drift like 3i Atlas across the void. Others, far away, discover them and ask the same question we ask now. What happened here? That too is archaeology, that too is memory. Even in erasure, a trace remains. But the great filter does not only threaten, it also offers perspective. If it is behind us, then we are rare, miraculous. If it is ahead, then we are fragile, impermanent. Either way, it reminds us that existence is not guaranteed, that survival is not given, that to live at all, to look at the stars and wonder is a gift of improbable magnitude. And so, when we see 3i Atlas and its companions, we are not merely looking at a comet or a probe or a ruin. We are looking at ourselves, reflected in the possibility of others. Their silence speaks to our future. Their ruin speaks to our fragility. Their drift speaks to our potential fate. Perhaps the great filter is 1,000 different things, layered one upon another. Disease, war, collapse, entropy. Or perhaps it is simple, time. The galaxy is old, civilizations are brief, and in the endless dark all lights eventually go out. If so, then 3i Atlas is not an anomaly at all, but the norm. A shard of memory, one among countless billions drifting forever. But there is one more possibility. What if the filter is not universal? What if some survive? What if 3i Atlas is not ruin, but survivor? A machine sent by those who endured, who passed through the wall, who built in the face of collapse. If so, then its presence is not warning, but invitation. A sign that survival is possible, that silence does not mean absence, that the forest is not empty. We cannot know, not yet, and so we watch. We measure. We speculate. The companions multiply, the flickers continue, the mystery deepens, and beneath it all the question lingers. Are we glimpsing the ruins of the fallen or the messengers of the enduring? Is 3i Atlas proof of the filter's cruelty or of its escape? The stars remain silent, the object drifts, and we lie awake beneath it, caught between awe and dread. The Great Filter is not merely a theory, it is a mirror. It forces us to see ourselves in the silence of the cosmos, to ask whether we too will endure. And 3i Atlas, flickering as it passes, may be the first trace of that mirror made real. Perhaps it is ruin, perhaps it is scout, perhaps it is nothing more than ice and rock, and all our fears are dreams. But even dreams matter. Dreams shape the way we look at the night. And tonight, the night feels deeper. It is tempting to think of danger as loud, an invasion announced by ships blotting out the sky, weapons flashing, banners unfurled. That is the image our myths have given us, the theatre of war written across the stars. But not all invasions are loud. Some are silent. Some begin not with thunder, but with drifting dust. Imagine 3i Atlas again. A fragment passing near Mars trailed by companions that flicker and multiply. To the eye it is quiet, almost fragile, no larger than a city, its fragments smaller still. Yet silence can be deceptive. What if the object carries within it the seeds of transformation? Consider nanotechnology, machines so small they are invisible, smaller than dust, smaller than pollen, smaller even than cells. Humanity has only begun to dream of such machines. Nanobots that could repair tissue, harvest energy, build structures molecule by molecule. If we can imagine them, perhaps others have built them, and if they have, then perhaps 3i Atlas is not simply rock or ruin, but a container. A vessel filled with swarms so small they cannot be seen, waiting only for the warmth of a star to awaken them. If so, then the multiplication we see may not be fragments at all, but colonies of machines dispersing, each companion a seed pod drifting silently, spreading invisible spores. They do not need to announce themselves. They do not need to shine. They only need to drift until gravity or accident or curiosity carries them into contact with a planet. From there, the work would begin quietly, invisibly, an invasion not of soldiers, but of particles. Pause, breathe, you're safe here. These are only thoughts, gentle what-ifs. But the idea lingers, unsettling in its plausibility. There is another possibility, panspermia. Life itself may not begin only on planets, it may travel, carried on rocks, on ice, on dust. Perhaps 3i Atlas is not mechanical at all but biological, a spore drifting across interstellar space, carrying seeds of life from one system to another. Its companions may be fragments designed not to observe but to fertilize, a quiet seeding of a Mars, of Earth, of any world it passes near. If so, then we are not witnessing a machine, but a germ, a wandering embryo of another biology. Its flickers, its formation, its multiplication, all signs not of technology, but of life itself, alien in form, older than our categories. This too has precedent in human thought. For decades, some have speculated that life on Earth began this way, seeded from comets or meteorites carrying primitive organisms. If it happened once, why not again? Perhaps we are the descendants of wanderers like 3i Atlas. Perhaps our very existence is proof that panspermia works. And perhaps, as the third visitor brushes past Mars, we are watching the cycle continue, the galaxy's way of scattering seeds in silence. But there is a darker possibility still. What if 3i Atlas is neither probe nor seed, neither ruin nor relic, but something stranger? A shift in the laws we trust. Physics is our fortress. We believe its walls are unbreakable. We measure the universe by constants, the speed of light, the pull of gravity, the charge of the electron. These are the rules of the game, the foundation of reality. But what if those rules are not constant? What if they can be bent, rewritten, or replaced? The anomalies of 3i Atlas, its acceleration, its formation, its flickers, may not be signs of machines or spores. They may be signs that our physics is incomplete, that what we call laws are only local truths, and that elsewhere, under other suns, other rules hold sway. Perhaps 3i Atlas carries with it not intention, but contagion, not of biology, not of nanotech, but of reality itself. Imagine a stone thrown into a pond. The ripples spread outward, changing the surface as they go. 3i Atlas may be such a stone, entering our system and leaving behind ripples not of water, but of physics. Small at first, imperceptible, then widening, altering trajectories, altering chemistry, altering what is possible. This idea is more unsettling than invasion, because it offers no opponent to fight. No machines, no spores, no fleet. Only the quiet suggestion that what we know as reality is not fixed, that the visitor is less object than event, that as it passes, it changes the canvas itself. Pause again. Let your breath slow. These are heavy thoughts, but they are only thoughts. You are safe resting beneath the stars. The laws around you hold steady as stone, but the mind can still wander, still imagine what it would mean if the stone were to ripple. A silent invasion then could take many forms. Nanotech drifting invisibly, biological seeds awakening, physics bending in ways we cannot yet detect. Each possibility shifts the story of 3i Atlas from visitor to participant, from anomaly to actor. Each suggests that its multiplication of companions is not accident, but unfolding purpose. What if the purpose is not conquest, but transformation? Not to destroy, but to alter, to plant seeds of biology or machines, to nudge chemistry, to bend probability. A gardener's hand rather than a hunter's knife. If so, then perhaps Earth itself was seeded long ago by such a visitor. Perhaps humanity is already the child of silent invasions past. Or perhaps the purpose is not benevolent. Perhaps the seeds are not for growth, but decay. A virus scattered across systems, erasing rather than creating. In the dark forest, both gardeners and predators may walk. We cannot yet know which has brushed near Mars. The unease deepens when we consider time. For whatever 3 Atlas carries, it may not act quickly. Seeds can wait. Nanotech can lie dormant. Physics can ripple slowly. The silence of today may conceal the changes of tomorrow or of centuries to come. By the time we notice, the invasion, if invasion it is, may already be complete. And yet, there is a strange calm in this thought too, for if it is happening, it is vast beyond our power to stop. To imagine 3i Atlas as a silent invasion is to imagine forces greater than our weapons, our politics, our fears. It is to imagine being caught in a tide larger than our world. And in that tide, what can we do but float? This is the paradox of cosmic horror. It frightens, but it also soothes. To realize our smallness is to release the burden of control. If 3i Atlas carries seeds, spores, machines, or shifts, then it is the universe itself at work, and we are only witnesses. The sky is vast, and our role is small, but the story still includes us. Look up again, in your mind. See the stars steady, the constellations unchanged. They have watched countless such visitors pass, countless fragments drift. They will watch long after 3i Atlas is gone. The forest is dark, yes. The filter may wait, yes. Invasions may be silent, yes. But the stars endure, and so, for now do we. The visitor continues on its path, flickering, multiplying. We watch, we wonder, we imagine. And in our imagining, the boundaries of possibility stretch, until the night itself feels alive with hidden purposes. Silent invasion, reality shift, seeding, spores, machines, ripples in physics, each is terrifying in its way, and yet each is also wonder, for in them the universe becomes stranger, richer, deeper than we dared believe. The visitor passes, the companions follow, and the silence of the cosmos feels heavier than before. Stories are often built of fragments, a line here, a whisper there, a shadow that falls across a page. In the tale of 3i Atlas we have gathered many fragments, the anomalies of its light, the multiplication of its companions, the failures of natural explanation, the unsettling fit of speculation. Each fragment alone is ambiguous. Together, they form a picture. And if we dare to see that picture whole, it is a vision that chills. Let us imagine, slowly, carefully, the worst-case scenario. The visitor is not a comet. It is not dust, nor ruin, nor accident. It is a machine, built by hands or minds far older than ours. It drifts deliberately, or at least by design, though perhaps its makers are long gone. Its structure is hidden, cloaked in rock and ice, but beneath the surface lies intention. Its companions are not fragments, they are drones. Deployed as it entered our solar system, They spread outward in loose formation, multiplying as they awaken. Their flickers are not random but signal, a language too alien for us to pass, pulses of data sent across vast distances, not toward us, but away, outward to the stars. What are they saying? Not hello, not we come in peace, but something simpler, colder. This system is occupied. This system is awake. The message is not to us. It is to others, others hidden in the silence, others waiting in the dark forest. The drones scatter like spores, some falling toward Mars, some trailing outward, some perhaps already on paths that will cross Earth's orbit. We cannot see them all. Some are too faint, too small, too deliberate in their silence. Meanwhile, the parent body drifts on, indifferent, its work already done. It has left behind its seeds, its markers, its signals. It will not stop for us, will not land, will not reveal itself. Its purpose is not to interact. Its purpose is to trigger. And what then does the trigger unleash? Perhaps the great filter itself. A mechanism as old as the galaxy, designed to ensure that no civilization grows unchecked. Perhaps the signal from 3i Atlas will take centuries to reach its destination, but in cosmic time, centuries are nothing. Perhaps in the far future ships will come, not fleets, not armies, but machines of erasure, designed not to conquer, but to silence. They will not announce themselves, they will not parley, they will arrive, and we will vanish, as others did before us. Or perhaps the invasion has already begun silently. The drones may not be waiting for others, but acting themselves. Each fragment may carry nanotech, invisible spores already dispersing in Mars's thin air, in the trails of dust that brush against Earth's atmosphere. We may not notice. The invasion may not look like fire and ruin, but like change, cells altering, chemistry shifting, physics bending. By the time we understand, the process may be irreversible. Humanity will not fall in a storm, but in a quiet transformation, rewritten into something else. And perhaps the worst case is not destruction, but assimilation. We do not vanish. We are absorbed. Our machines, our biology, our culture, all drawn into a pattern older than we can comprehend. We may think ourselves still alive, still human, but the story of us will no longer be ours. We will be subsumed into the network, our individuality dissolved into the long shadow of the builders. This is the nightmare vision, that 3i Atlas is not anomaly but inevitability, that every star is seeded with such machines, drifting until they encounter life, triggering the same sequence again and again, that civilizations rise, notice and fall, that the galaxy's silence is not emptiness, but the hush of a forest where every sound is swiftly stilled. Breathe, you are safe. Remember, this is only story. The visitor is far away, its fragments faint. You lie here, listening, your body heavy, your breath steady. The horror is distant, abstract, dreamlike. But even in dreams, images linger. In the worst-case scenario, 3 Atlas is a messenger of endings, not only for us but for all who dare to light torches in the forest. Its presence is the filter, embodied. Its flickers are the glint of the blade. Its multiplication is the spreading of seeds that do not nurture, but erase. And yet, even in this vision, there is beauty. For to be part of such a story, even at its end, is to be woven into the tapestry of the cosmos. We are not alone, we are not meaningless. We are players, however briefly, in the drama of life and silence across the stars. Worst case, yes, but not hopeless. For even as we imagine doom, we also imagine possibility. We imagine futures in which we endure, in which we learn, in which the filter is not final. And imagination itself is resistance, the refusal to let silence be the only voice. So let the visitor drift. Let its companions flicker. Let the worst-case vision unfurl in the quiet of the night. You are here, alive, listening, breathing. The stars burn steady above you, indifferent, eternal. Whatever 3i Atlas is, whatever it means, you are safe in this moment. And in this moment, you can dream. When the mind grows weary of speculation, probes, ruins, hunters in the forest, invisible seeds, it turns to something older, something deeper. Philosophy is not the attempt to explain, but the attempt to live with the unexplainable. It is the art of sitting with mystery, letting it flow through you, and asking what it reveals not about the stars but about ourselves. For whether Three-Eyes Atlas is comet or probe, ruin or seed, the question that lingers is not only what is it, but what are we? Pause here, breathe. Let the weight of your body sink into the bed, into the floor, into the earth itself. Feel gravity hold you, as the sun holds the planets, as the galaxy holds the stars. You belong to this fabric. You are woven into it. You are not outside the story. You are within it. So what is humanity's place in this story? We are small, yes. Smaller than we like to admit. Our entire planet is a speck against the backdrop of the Milky Way, which itself is only one of billions of galaxies. Each star in the night sky is a sun, and around each sun may circle planets. The scales are beyond comprehension, and yet within that vastness here we are, a species that wonders, a species that builds telescopes and asks questions of visitors like Three-Eye Atlas, a species that dreams of others. That we can ask at all is remarkable. The universe is not obligated to produce minds. It could have been endless silence, endless fire and rock without consciousness to witness it. Yet somehow, on a small planet orbiting a small star, consciousness bloomed. Life learned to look up. And so philosophy asks why? Not in the scientific sense, not what chemical pathways, not what evolutionary pressures, but in the human sense. Why this? Why us? Why now, staring into the night, listening to stories of visitors from other stars? Perhaps there is no answer. Perhaps the universe has no meaning, and we create it as we go. Or perhaps the meaning is in the asking. The fact that we wonder is the fact that we matter. For in a cosmos where most is silent, our questions are music. Three-Eye Atlas may be machine, seed, ruin, or nothing more than ice and rock. But the truth is that its story is as much ours as its own. We are the ones who look at its flickers and see signals. We are the ones who connect the dots into patterns. We are the ones who feel awe and dread at its multiplication of companions. The visitor is only a mirror. We are the reflection. And what do we see in that reflection? We see fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being alone. Fear of fragility, of impermanence, of futures cut short. But we also see wonder. Wonder that the universe might be alive with memory. Wonder that civilizations may rise and fall across billions of years. Wonder that in our tiny moment we might glimpse a fragment of that larger story. This is philosophy's gift, to take fear and transform it into meaning. Perhaps the meaning is humility. To recognize that we are not the center, but a part. That our torch in the forest is small, but still it burns. That if others have fallen, we may fall too. But in the meantime, we shine. Perhaps the meaning is connection. To know that if others have walked this path, then we are not alone in walking it. Even ruins speak of companionship. Even silence speaks of shared fragility. Perhaps the meaning is creation. To build stories, art, science, machines, music, all the things that will outlast us. If the filter waits ahead, then our task is not to survive forever, but to fill the time we are given with light. To leave traces that others far away may one day discover, just as we now discover Three-Eye Atlas. And perhaps the meaning is simply to live, to love, to breathe, to notice the stars, to rest in the awareness that we are here, now, conscious in a universe that need not have produced consciousness at all. Pause again. Imagine the stars above you, the same stars our ancestors saw, the same stars that civilizations long dead may have seen from their own worlds, the same stars that others may see after we are gone. In their light we're all connected, across time, across space, across silence. Now imagine that you are holding Three-Eye Atlas in your hand. It is small, a stone, a fragment, yet in it is the entire story we have told. Probe, ruin, seed, signal, mirror. You turn it slowly, watching it flicker in the light, and you realize the mystery is not only out there, it is in you. The need to ask, to imagine, to fear, to wonder, that is the real visitor. That is what crosses interstellar distances. Consciousness itself is the traveller, and so philosophy asks us not to solve the mystery but to dwell with it, to let it change us, to let it humble us, soothe us, awaken us. When you hear of the dark forest, of the filter, of silent invasions, you may feel dread. But philosophy whispers, even dread is evidence of meaning. Even dread proves that you are alive, that you care, that you are part of the story. The universe may be indifferent, but we are not, and that difference is everything. So what is humanity's place in the cosmos? Perhaps it is simply this: to notice, to bear witness, to turn stones into stories, comets into questions, flickers into patterns, to lie beneath the night sky and let it fill us with awe. 3i Atlas will pass, it will drift on, indifferent. But the mark it leaves will not vanish. It has become part of our story, part of our philosophy, part of the questions we will ask for generations, and in that it has already succeeded, whatever it is. There is a phrase scientists use, quiet and careful: the known unknowns. These are the mysteries we can see but cannot yet solve. They are the shadows cast by data, the questions that stand clear even when the answers remain hidden. 3i Atlas, our third interstellar visitor, is wrapped in such shadows. It has given us fragments of truth but no certainty, and so we gather its anomalies one by one, not as solutions but as invitations. First, its origin. We know it came from beyond our solar system. Its hyperbolic orbit proves that much. But where did it begin? From what star? What cradle of dust and fire? Did it drift here from a nearby system, or has it been travelling for millions of years, ejected long ago by a star whose light no longer shines? We trace its path backward, but the trail dissolves into the random tides of galactic motion. Its birthplace remains unknown. Second, its composition. Spectra tell us pieces of the story. Traces of ice, yes, but also hints of metals, and reflections inconsistent with any comet we know. Is it rock wrapped in ice, or ice wrapped in rock? Or something stranger? An alloy not formed in our system, a chemistry foreign to our laboratories? We do not know. The flickers suggest surfaces, flat and reflective, but whether they are natural planes of fractured stone or something more deliberate, we cannot say. Third, its companions. This is the deepest of the mysteries. They multiply, they vanish, they return. They hold formation more tightly than fragments should. Their flickering light curves resemble rotation, but also signalling. Are they shards of ice? Dust clumps? Drones? Seeds? Without closer inspection, the question remains unanswered, and yet their persistence continues to trouble even the most cautious voices. Fourth, its purpose. This is the question that science does not like to ask, for it assumes intention. But the mind asks anyway. Why here? Why now? Why 3 visitors in less than a decade after billions of years of silence? ʻOumuamua, Borisov, Atlas. Coincidence, perhaps, or perhaps not. The purpose, if there is one, is unknown. Fifth, its effect. What will it leave behind? Dust in orbit invisible to us? Seeds of life or machines, or nothing at all? Will it simply pass through, fading into memory, or will it alter the story of our system in ways subtle and slow? We do not yet know. We may not know for generations. These are the known unknowns of 3i Atlas. They remind us of something essential, that knowledge is not certainty. Science is a lantern held in the dark, and every new discovery extends its glow only a little farther. Beyond the edge of that glow, the night remains vast. There is humility in this. To admit what we do not know is not weakness, but strength. It is the foundation of every step forward. When ʻOumuamua accelerated, we admitted confusion. When Borisov showed us a true interstellar comet, we admitted surprise. Now, with 3i Atlas and its multiplying companions, we admit both. Confusion, surprise, wonder, unease. The cosmos does not yield its secrets easily. It keeps them hidden in silence, in distance, in scales too large for us to cross. We are left with glimpses, flickers of light, fragments of spectra, incomplete data. From these we build our models, our stories, our speculations. But beneath them all lies the honesty of the unknown, and the unknown, though unsettling, is also fertile. It is the soil from which wonder grows. If we knew all the answers, there would be no awe. If every visitor could be explained neatly, we would stop asking. It is mystery that keeps us alive to the cosmos, mystery that keeps our eyes turned upward. So let us linger in the known unknowns. We do not know what 3i Atlas is. We do not know why it multiplies. We do not know what it carries. We do not know what it means. And perhaps we never will. That too is part of the story, for not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some are meant to be lived with, like the constellations. Orion is not truly a hunter, nor Taurus a bull, nor Cassiopeia a queen, and yet, for thousands of years, humans have looked at those stars and seen stories. The stories gave meaning, even if they were not fact. So too with 3i Atlas. Whether comet, probe, ruin, or seed, it has already become a constellation in our imagination, a story written across the sky. Perhaps that is enough. Pause here. Breathe. Let the quiet of the room surround you. Outside, the night sky remains unchanged. The stars continue their patient burning. 3 Atlas drifts on, indifferent, neither confirming nor denying our fears or our hopes. The unknown remains unknown. And in that unknown, there is peace. For the truth is that humanity has always lived with mysteries. Before telescopes, the stars themselves were mysteries. Before science, the Earth's seasons were mysteries. Even now, the depths of our own oceans hold secrets we have not yet uncovered. The unknown is not an enemy. It is a companion, walking beside us through every age. The story of 3i Atlas is the story of being human, to encounter something larger than ourselves, to admit we do not understand it, and to wonder anyway. Known unknowns, questions without answers, shadows without forms. They may trouble us, but they also cradle us. They remind us of our humility, our smallness, our hunger for knowledge. They keep the fire of curiosity alive. So what remains, then, is not certainty, but openness. To keep watching, to keep asking, to keep telling stories beneath the stars. 3i Atlas may fade, but the unknown it leaves behind will endure. And that unknown will call us forward into new questions, new journeys, new dreams. And now the story slows, the visitor drifts onward. Our questions linger behind it like dust, and you, here, beneath the quiet of your own sky, are safe. Let your breath ease, in, then out. The weight of your body belongs to the earth, held by gravity steady and sure. Your thoughts, though vast and heavy, can float free now, like sparks rising from a fire. 3i Atlas is gone from our eyes, still moving, still carrying its mystery, but further now, farther with each second. Its companions glimmer faintly, then fade into the distances between planets. The instruments turn away, their data streams closing, their reports filed. The astronomers rest, and we are left with silence. A silence not empty, but full. Look, once more, in your mind, at the night sky. The constellations return, familiar and eternal. Orion's belt, Cassiopeia's throne, the Pleiades, a small cluster of diamonds. They shine as they always have, as they always will. Their light is steady, their stories unchanged. Whatever came and passed, the stars endure. Imagine yourself lying on a shoreline of the cosmos. The waves are slow, gentle, each star alight upon the horizon. The visitor was a ripple, one wave among billions. It passed. Another will come. The tide is endless. You need only rest upon it, floating, carried without effort. The questions remain, what it was, what it meant, whether it was natural or otherwise. But questions can rest too. Not all must be answered tonight. Some can wait, some may never be answered, and that is all right. Science is a lantern, casting its glow into the dark. We hold it steady, and with it we see a little farther. Beyond its light the shadows remain. But shadows are not threats. They are simply the places where the light has not yet reached. And in the shadows there is still beauty. Mystery is not a void, but a sea. We float upon it, guided by curiosity, lulled by wonder. Let yourself drift. Imagine rising gently, as if gravity has loosened its hold. Your body grows lighter, your thoughts quieter. The earth shrinks below you, a blue marble suspended in black. The moon glides nearby, pale and watchful. Beyond, the planets circle in silence, each in its orbit steady as a heartbeat. Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, their storms turning slowly, endlessly. Above them, the Milky Way spreads like a river of fire arching across eternity. Billions of stars, each one a sun, each one a mystery of its own. Somewhere among them, other worlds spin. Somewhere among them, other minds may wonder, as we do now. And in that river, somewhere, drifts 3i Atlas. Small, fragile, faint. Its companions scatter like sparks, vanishing one by one. To it, We are just another star, another system, another ripple. It does not linger, it moves on. The universe is vast, our lives are brief. But within that briefness lies something eternal, the ability to notice, to imagine, to ask. That is our place. That is our light. As you rest now, know that you are part of this vastness. The atoms in your body were forged in stars. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the carbon in your cells, all born in ancient fire scattered by supernovae, carried across light years, gathered into Earth, into life, into you. You're already interstellar. You're already cosmic. So let go of the fear. Let go of the weight of questions. You are safe. You are small, yes, but never insignificant. You are woven into the same fabric as the stars themselves. In and out, breathe. The story of 3i Atlas is unfinished, as all stories are. It will continue beyond us, beyond this generation, beyond our knowing. But for tonight we have walked far enough. We have followed it through science, through speculation, through fear and wonder, until we have arrived here, at the shore of silence. This is where the story rests. This is where you can rest. The visitor drifts on, the stars remain steady, the earth turns, carrying you gently into night, into dreams. Close your eyes. Imagine the dark of space not as emptiness, but as a blanket. Soft, endless, wrapped around you. The stars are points of light stitched into its fabric. They do not watch, they do not judge, they only shine, and you are part of that shining. Sleep comes like orbit, slow, steady, inevitable. You circle down, down, into quiet. Thoughts scatter like fragments, drifting beyond reach. Breath deepens, the mind loosens. You fall not into fear, but into rest. Let it happen, let go. The universe is vast and you are safe. Sleep now beneath the stars, sleep and dream of wonders.